roll up and out. See you from afar, got my thoughts in the sky. Where we used to kiss, sunshine, shit, and why? You gotta call me every day, pretend you my baby. I see more real out there lately, it's crazy. Yeah, we could be the same as we claim in this kingdom shit and keep it tame. Come on, baby girl, we're not the same. Two different speeds, but we keep it one lane. Yeah, what goes around comes around. Keep 100, y'all. Do this for my soul like a dawn. Put the stereo on.
Put your hands in the air, we'll be alright. Oh, yeah. You keep messing up my mind, but I love your style. You know I
put the place up. Put my face up.
Welcome to the SMITE Minor League. Finch here, joined by Taco, and we're happy to have you. And I'm happy to have you here as well. We take a look at the European Minor League.
Thanks, Finch. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
But no, I'm definitely excited to be here also as we're starting to come to a close for the fall split in the minor league. Things are still pretty tight over there in Europe.
It absolutely is close. I would say Optimus Gang and Insignum look pretty good to make it to that placement stage, but everyone else still fighting for a spot. Again, when you go through that round robin, when you make it to the placement stage, it's all about trying to get to DreamHack, trying to get to HRX. It's going to be happening November 16th through 18th. For you all out there at home, though, it's going to be a lot easier. Go to highresexpo.com, pick up your tickets, make sure that you do not miss a minute of the action.
You're going to want to be there, and just in case you do end up missing out on a couple of the main game events happening at DreamHack, don't worry, because there's always the after party where you can make up for it and still get a chance to say hey to everybody that you've been wanting to meet.
That's right. Go to hrxafterparty.eventbrite.com, pick up those tickets there. $50 gets you in the door. If you are there at DreamHack, I will accept no good excuse for you not being there. Come see me, Taco, all your other casters, all the other players, coaches, streamers, all the people that you want to spend some time with. Hang out there at the after party.
I believe this is where the crisp, firm handshakes bit comes into play.
Yeah, those will be there at the after party. Crisp, firm handshakes.
They are pretty crisp.
That's right. I keep it fresh. You know? that's just something I bring, as Ryan Agro Bailey would frustratingly say. But let's talk a little bit about what you all can expect today. First, let's take a look at where all the teams already are shaping up. Up there at the very top is Optimus Gang, 7-0, undefeated. But Taco, that's going to end up changing here this week. We'll talk a little bit about those schedules that are coming up in a minute with Insignum breathing down their neck. But everyone else, it is a 4-car pileup for who's going to be that third team that goes into the play-ins to the placement stage.
And that's where the craziness really starts to come into play, because if you're Optimus Gang, you're kind of fine with how things are going. Same for Insignum, I think. You know that you're going to at least be eligible for the round-robin stage to try and make it into Worlds to begin with. But Sacred Speed Buff, Poppies, Exordium, Milky Way, all of these teams still gunning for that third-place spot.
And they all have a legitimate claim to it, I would say. It's so tough to try and determine which one of those teams is more likely to grab it than others. But as we said, all these teams are going to be looking to a bit of shakeup. Sacred Speed Buff, I believe, are going to have Marcus instead of Equality in the jungle today. We'll see if they can make that look work. Milky Way also has an important set. We're seeing it right off the bat up against Optimus Gang. They've got Nia Spring in the Hunter instead of Boss, and Get Fisher in the jungle, since obviously they can't have Marcus. He's over there on the side of Sacred Speed Buff right now. So a lot of different looks going into some important sets.
And I think that it's a fairly exciting fashion, too, that some of these teams are willing to take those chances right at the very end. So just goes to show that there's always room for improvement, and these teams are constantly seeking it out.
Yeah, Optimus Gang also having some adjustments. Looks like they couldn't have Johnny in their games, at least from what we were being told going into this match. They're going to be playing with, I believe, Original instead, who is one of their listed subs. It's someone that they have, I suppose, been working with. He's listed on their check-ins, but we'll see if he can get it done for him today. They got 2 big sets.
That might actually end up changing the outcome of how or of whether or not Optimus Gang is able to keep that first place spot intact, but we'll have to wait and see what ends up happening with Optimus Gang later on in the day.
It absolutely could be a big deal here. Optimus Gang up against Milky Way going to be with the first set, and Milky Way was one of those teams here as we move into the picks and bans that I was listing as being a squad that could possibly take some games off the top teams. They've run into some struggles since then and made me kind of feel a little bit bad about it, but this is a team that could certainly look strong if Optimus Gang are a little weaker without Johnny in there, who's like, what, multiple-time MVP, our player to watch 2 weeks in a row, I think, or something like that. I mean, it's hard to overstate his value to the squad.
It's another thing, too, entirely, because I'm not saying that there's anything wrong with Original as a jungler or a player, but it's different compared to what Optimus Gang is already accustomed to. You understand Johnny's playstyle. You understand how to follow up appropriately after he engages. And I think that anytime you introduce a new player into a team like Optimus Gang, where they've already been so used to like what they were running to begin with, it can get rather difficult.
Look at that. How the tables turn, huh? It's Optimus Gang who are the ones banning the Ao Kuang early on. It's so hard to imagine this timeline that we're currently occupying as Amaterasu gets selected here by Optimus Gang. That one, not too big of a surprise. There is still the Freya out there, some Naja, Circuits, some big value picks, but Taco, this Amaterasu has skyrocketed in value lately.
it seems like everybody just wants her for the duo lane.
Oh, yeah.
Amaterasu for support, I feel, is a lot of really strong wave clear, and so I can understand the reasoning behind why players, or teams especially, would want to take her. Plus her mobility just gives her excellent chase down potential as well. And more importantly, I like this for the Agni. That dazzling offense, I think, going to be rather effective in terms of space control, and Agni already has so much of that with the bomb AoE spread.
Yeah, that makes it a problem now. You kind of have to use your beads either for the Agni or the Ama, and you won't have them ready for the next one to come in. So already strong team fight presence, and when you add in the Chernobog with all that rotational ability, it's tough to try and line up with. But look on the other side, Jingwei and Sol, two of those auto-attack focused gods, and Jingwei, who's very late game focused and safe early, very strong from Milky Way too.
This is a little bit concerning, though, if you compare the two drafts directly, and I say that mostly because of the fact that there just doesn't seem to be nearly as much pressure available for Milky Way in comparison to Optimus Gang. I almost feel like this Chernobog and Amaterasu, if that does end up being the dual lane combination for Optimus Gang, then they're just going to hard body pressure Milky Way out of their laning phase and possibly just looking for non-stop purple red buff invades, so that could put a lot of strain onto Milky Way's jungler.
Yeah, I imagine the Jingwei Terra, if that is going to be the dual lane against the Ama Chernobog, are going to have a hard time establishing pressure, as you alluded to there, Taco. So I want to see what Milky Way prioritizes in the jungle. That could be the equalizing factor for that, right? If they want to try and bring someone over to turn those tides. As Susano comes in for Milky Way as that jungler, that is someone who certainly could come over and put the hurting onto a Chernobog or an Amaterasu.
Perhaps, but Susano kind of falls into the same category as a Jingwei for me, where
not early,
you can expect some promise in the mid to late game phases, but as far as that early clear is concerned, I think that the Susano is definitely going to fall a little bit behind to the Serket, knowing that Serket Agni, I feel, just a slightly stronger push combination, although Sol might have the advantage in the waves early on that could compensate for the lack of pressure out of the Susano, but with this Geb, there's definitely peel for Milky Way. I'm just really concerned about their damage spread here, Finch.
And they have foregone the early game, it feels like, right? With this Geb coming in now as well, there's almost no chance they'll have dual lane pressure early on. But if they make it to the mid to late game, I don't know how you stop Earth and Fury, Cataclysm, Geb shields, the Jingwei soul damage. That's a lot of tools they have.
I've got a good idea, though. It begins with the Ardio, and that cripple field is going to be rather impactful, I feel, especially against the Terra and the Susano, probably the two best characters that Milky Way have for initiation, and now they're going to be limited, I think, by this Ardio selection. Optimus Gang with the sneaky last pick there.
Pretty strong, bringing in the Serket and the RDO. Can Optimus Gang get it done, even without Johnny there in the squad for them, or will Milky Way be able to sneak one away? We're about to find out. Let's go ahead and get right into that Game 1 action. The casters are standing by to take it away.
Thank you very much, Finch and Taco. Here we are, ready for Optimus Gang versus Milky Way. Aggro joined by Anatoly, and this is a big game here for Milky Way, Toly. We've said all along, if you can be a team that can steal a win from either Insignum or Optimus Gang, you put yourself in a great position to finish in that top 3. Milky Way going up against Optimus Gang without their star jungler.
That's true. Johnny not here for today, but still, I think Optimus Gang are going to be A-okay, because how many times have we seen these highlight plays from Sibby playing in the soul lane, even Farrakrick on the follow-up, and when you're substituting as a jungler, you play a lot of these playmaking gods, and the Serket is certainly one to bring Optimus Gang with a lead.
Sprint used as Spadify actually uses the Purification Beads to keep it going, as E-Chrome is the focus. First blood, Optimus Gang. Who cares if you don't have your normal jungler? Let's just first blood the duo lane.
There goes the highlight play we were talking about. Starting things off with a bang on Optimus Gang, and that's going to allow Caspan to fight this huge advantage now to even stretch it further if they get this purple buff.
Amaterasu, a big priority pick. You heard him talk about it on the desk, and that right there is a big reason why. Her level 1 fight just so good, and she doesn't hit you with anything other than auto attacks. It's just that she has that aura that provides movement speed or power to her hunter and really allows Caspadify to get that first blood easily.
Not only that, but also the upgraded sprint came out to pay huge dividends there. Optimus Gang put Milky Way's duo lane in a false sense of security, thinking that they were going to start off the buffs for whatever reason, then turn around the side, finding a quick first blood, more importantly, onto the hunter.
Doku uses the Purification Beads in mid, original able to strip those away, but a little bit scared there in the mid, where I don't know that Doku's actually in danger of dying. Farrakrick's getting fairly low, but he's got some potions still in hand. Neither mid laner going for a Book of Thostar. Great double taunt there from original, but he's the one taking too much damage, and indeed, Get Fisher able to get on the board for Milky Way, and now it's Ferricrick who's got to try and make a play. Dash should be up soon, but now the Jetstream's on him. Get Fisher will not teleport because Tier 1 tower would provide too much damage. Good idea there by Original, but Circuit awfully squishy.
I love that idea. The problem was Ferricrick, not even 10 seconds prior to that double taunt, already used his dash on the melee minions going backwards, so he didn't have the follow-up for even basic attacks. He just wasn't in range. A little bit of disconnect there. Not sure if Johnny would have tried to go for the same kind of aggressive play. He probably would have looked for the poke and then disengage, and that's the difference between a Circuit level 2 versus a Circuit level 3. Without the ambush, that play becomes exponentially more risky.
Exactly. You use your main form of escape for damage in that spot, and all of a sudden, yeah, of course you're a free kill. So a bit of a turnaround there for Milky Way. They at least get something going in their favor, but duo lane, you still imagine, will be going the way of Optimus Gang for at least a little bit longer. We haven't talked about this Geb in the solo lane. Usually, if you see Terra Geb, it'll be the other way around. But Sixer elects to bring the Guardian into the solo here instead of the Terra, and he'll meet up with Original, but can't imagine the Circuit's going to be able to do too much here. In fact, he's got to look for Get Fisher. Good Geb shield by Sixer, as Sibby here with that cripple field going to prevent Get Fisher from doing a whole lot else.
Sibby doesn't want this to go away quite yet. Original now level 3 has the ambush. Looked for the poke onto Get Fisher, then disengaging and piggybacking off of the Geb selection in the solo lane. It's not a super common strategy, but at the end of the day, if you think about Guardians in the solo lane, you think about Guardians that have control. Athenas, Artios, Geb kind of falls in that category. As long as you can transition safely without giving up any kills to jungle ganks, then you're going to be higher level than most of your other players, and that Geb shield going to be so impactful about keeping your allies alive.
But Athena, Artio, Cerberus, these are Guardians that can clear the wave a lot more easily than Geb. What are you supposed to do as Geb to clear the wave?
Well, at the end of the day, he doesn't want to clear the wave because he has Guardian's Blessing, and a lot of these Guardians are trying to follow the same suit by getting this extra gold per 5. So, but in the early game, you don't have to worry about the clear. You can do enough damage to allow the minions to destroy themselves, allow your tower to do the dirty work, and then once you hit that level 7 mark, your knock-up, your rollout at the second phase is going to do enough damage to clear the wave once you evolve your Guardian's Blessing.
Sibby also has that Guardian's Blessing, so he's not looking to play particularly aggressively in terms of wave clear in this lane either, as you see his archers do the work for him. I think a big reason why we see this Guardian's Blessing is it only requires 50 stacks to evolve. Really not that many waves. You do end up losing a decent amount by not getting your last hits where you can, but I don't know. It's still something we've seen quite a bit of, so people must think it's pretty good. It looks like Hispanify did use Living Nightmare for a moment, thought about going aggressive, but decided to just land back down in his own lane. No real aggression from it.
It seems that Shoxy Foxy used that Earth and Fury. That diamond disappeared, so trading ulti for ulti just to survive, because Hispanify was able to bring himself to the sky for a little bit longer, continue that farming category, and with a huge first blood bounty, he already has the Devil Glove stacks completed.
Ferricrick down below half again. He's really been aggressively positioning so far with this Agni. Really feels like he's getting the better end of Doku so far. And the poke has been there, but Soul has great in-kit sustain, and that's before she finishes what likely will be a Bancroft's Talon with that tiny trinket. So I don't know how much longer Ferricrick's poke is really going to stay relevant in this lane.
And the thing about Doku on the Soul is there's so much flexibility with what build you can go, whether it's Mage's Blessing, Hunter's Blessing, Book of Thoth, Bancroft's Rush, Boots Rush. That's why Soul is just so enticing to play in either the Hunter or the middle lane. Just the ability and the freedom to build whatever style not only you want, but your team requires of you.
Soul has been really, really popular in the European Minor League in particular. I mean, I feel like her pick ban rate in the European Minor League is probably nearing 80 to 90% during this fall split. Whereas no one, I mean, you'll see the Soul in the Pro League every once in a while. You'll see the Soul in the North American side of the Minor League, but it's really not quite as often as you see it here on the European Minor League side. Do you think it's just that every mid laner seems to have it in the God pool, or is it they think that there's something there that other teams aren't seeing?
It's just such a safe goddess. You can't go wrong with it. Between Disapparate, getting you out of jail, giving you a free like Bead/Aegis combination for a couple of seconds, and one of the best form of CCs in Smite is a little bit of a knock-up, and that's what Supernova is going to provide. Not only the damage, but the ability to disrupt.
Get Fisher ganking right-hand side. Sibby low, but too early on the Typhoon. Get Fisher still manages to get the kill. Got me worried there for a second, but he gets it done. Cataclysm set up that pretty nicely as Doku has to use beads and the ultimate to make sure he doesn't get killed by that last breath.
Surprised that he didn't commit to the ambush after Disapparate into the last breath, still having the ultimate. But considering Fusify is around this corner, this could be a kill, but this Monolith combined with the Soul healing already topped herself off to 80% health. Missed opportunity, I think, for a kill.
Radiance, the Soul's 1, is just an insane ability. It does great objective DPS, even though it doesn't look like it would. You're getting 110 every 1 second for a decent amount of time, and then you also get 25% of your missing health, and you don't need to rank that up anymore. That heal used to scale with level as well.
That's true.
Now you get it at rank 1, so Soul early game becomes much better in the healing.
That's right. Self-preserving abilities make guys just more enticing to pick up competitively because you can't always rely on your Guardians to heal for you. Even though Shoxy Foxy is playing the Terra, you would like her to be around the corner, but at the end of the day, she has to make sure that Echo Chrome is not going to follow too far behind, that his solo lane is going to be A-okay, but yet again, Doku caught between a rock and a hard place. No beats this time around.
It's too far up there without Purification beats. An original good identification on this left-hand side. Earth and Fury used as well as Dazzling Offensive, both supports trading ultimates, but it's Milky Way who gets the better end very slightly. But look at this, Original on the way over. E-Chrome's dash now down. Original looking for the Jing Wei. Rooted. Airstrike good to get E-Chrome away, but Shoxy Foxy so low. Caspainify used the ultimate just as a slow instead of backing and trying to use it to chase down the opposition. Good idea there by Optimus Gang, but just short of the damage.
And the call was made because the Living Nightmare from Caspainify. Get Fisher was making the counter rotation, and he was identified from a distance, so the disengage happens. No one really in that much trouble anymore in that duel lane. Just going to be a reset, and I love what Sibi is doing, proxying between the tier 1 and the tier 2. That way he can still back safely and go back to the laning phase without having to worry about missing any minions.
Teleport is down, so definitely a good time for that. It was Faircrick again putting bomb poke into Deku so far. This has been a consistent effort from Faircrick to keep this Soul lower on HP than she would like. And take a look at the net worth. It's worked at least a little bit, and making sure Faircrick is getting extra farm around the map. He's top of the net worth charts right now, trading with Sixer, whereas Doku down at 4,800. That's 700 gold down.
I think a lot of it came down to Original taking that early spill allows Faircrick to get a lot of that solo farm, and as a result of Doku dying, that's where the separation is starting to occur. Faircrick just now hitting level 11, 2 levels above Doku, playing this Soul. Still trying to figure out what he's going to build after the boots, more than likely that Bancroft's Talon, whereas Faircrick might be going for the Chronos Pendant.
Yeah, that's what it looks like, and this is a build that Warchi was doing a lot for the Poppies. Now that he's in the mid lane on this Agni is just the full CDR, I am bombing you as often as possible sort of build. And Agni can be played in this way. He's one of the more versatile mages. He can fill your traditional burst mage role, he can fill your control mage role. It's kind of what you need from him in this game. But I think that Optimus Gang has enough control that they don't need him to be full CDR. I'm biased. I've never really been a fan of full CDR Agni. I feel like he has so many abilities already that you don't need CDR. If you just space them properly, you should have something up at all times.
Spacing the gank onto Doku, but the Disapparate getting him out of danger. But despite not having that much burst because of the cooldown reduction, the Void Stone from Sibi is going to help Faircrick's numbers ever so slightly.
Pull in onto Fusify. Decent damage there on the Get Fisher, but Shell was used by Shoxy Foxy to prevent even more of that from coming through. I mean, Warchi's seen a lot of success with this build, but I mean, I feel like if you're going even 10% CDR in the Agni build, you've got enough going for you that you can one-shot people in the mid to late game. With this build, you get tons of bombs and you get tons of stuns, but your damage just isn't there in the burst category. It's sustained damage instead.
So outside of Fusify's Dazzling Offensive, CB going in for the stuns and the engagement, I think the bomb stuns are another good way of engaging, and you don't want to be without a stun as an Agni for too long, especially if you're going to try to survive against Get Fisher. That's going to be looking to blink on you once he hits level 12. So there's a little bit of a catch-22. You're going to lose a lot of damage numbers, don't get me wrong, but a utility mid-mage, whether it's Agni, Jean-Qui, Isis, or otherwise, can serve a huge merit to a team's team fighting abilities.
I will say that if this becomes a Divine Ruin for Ferrocrick, I do like this build at least a little bit more, because that means that he's applying anti-heal as often as possible. He'll always have a bomb available to use, and that means that the Terra healing, the Soul Sustain even, isn't going to be quite as relevant. But when you're going up against Geb solo and a Terra support, 2 Guardians that are going to be really, really tanky, I just don't know that this build will provide you with enough to actually kill them.
That's very true. Maybe needs to go for a Soul Reaver afterwards, trying to eliminate some more of that health pool out of these tanky targets. And considering you're going to have many more cooldowns, you'll have many more opportunities to proc off that Soul Reaver. We'll see if that's what he likes to do after he gets his first real penetration item. Doubt it's going to be Spear of Desolation, considering he already has max CDR, unless he's planning to sell that Mage's Blessing sooner rather than later.
Again, I think it should be a Divine Ruin to stop that healing coming from Milky Way, but we shall wait and see. Stun on a Get Fisher, couple bombs. Should be healed up pretty easily. All 3 bombs committed from Ferrocrick. That puts Get Fisher to half HP, but I believe Milky Way does have Oracle Vision right now, so no real attempt at a Gold Fury. Instead, it's his trap on this top left side. Original is the focus. Last breath, but it's Original who falls first. Fusify there to help out, but he can't do a whole lot else. Milky Way get a nice, easy kill.
Oh, CB caught between a rock and a hard place. Control till all high heaven between the Terra Stun and the Geb Cataclysm knockup. Just not having the CC immunity hurt Sibby so much. There are 2 for nothing. Milky Way on the board.
Get Fisher can't quite find that Wind Siphon, but Milky Way, after getting 2 kills, heads straight towards the Gold Fury. Down to about half HP. Fusify around the back. Living Nightmare is up right now. Caspanify will join the fight on the Shoxy Foxy. Bomb Stun can't quite find the home for Ferrocrick, and Gold Fury still getting lower, down to about 1,000 HP, and Milky Way able to get it, and it looks like they'll be able to escape without any sort of casualties.
Nothing that Optimus Gang can do, considering it was a 3-on-5. And I want to touch back on what happened in the mid lane. 2 things I noticed. Number 1, expending all 3 bombs from Ferrocrick for a little bit of poke onto Get Fisher was not the worst idea in the world, but it became worse after they wanted to force a team fight, because now you don't have bombs number 2 and 3. Shoxy Foxy was able to heal up Get Fisher for a little bit. And then the second point I wanted to make was how early they tried to ambush them. Original should have allowed Milky Way to come a little bit further. That trap was set perfectly for them, but without the vision from Milky Way, that Optimus Gang had every fish basically on their boat, and they all just jumped back in the water.
I completely agree with you. Number 1, Ferrocrick using all 3 bombs, but this build only puts Get Fisher to half HP. If he were to triple bomb Get Fisher with Book of Thoth Pen Boots, Get Fisher's dead. So that's something to keep in mind. Also, we were wondering if this lack of Johnny was going to affect Optimus Gang, and I think through 14 minutes you can say unequivocally that it has. I mean, Original takes a bad death in the mid lane at level 2, and then right there, the lack of patience. I mean, it's not to say that Original isn't, you know, ready for this level or anything like that, but Optimus Gang is the best team in the European Minor League right now, and Johnny's been a big part of that, and clearly hurting them right now, not having it.
The control from this Geb Soul Lane prevents Original from finding a good engage. Fusify gonna stun out Shoxy Foxy. Good follow-up from Ferrocrick, just not enough damage.
Sibby low, dash interrupted, and E-Chrome willing to put him down. Good kill from Milky Way. That means number 5 for them. Tier 1 tower defended by Optimus Gang, but still, just not a lot of defense possible in terms of kills for them right now. It just feels like they're doing everything they can to keep Milky Way at bay.
At 15.5 minutes in, Milky Way getting that 1 Gold Fury, but still not up that much gold to write home about. They still need to find a way to start grouping up in these team fights, crumbling the towers. Sixer playing this Geb Soul Lane basically stops Original from making any blink play on the Circuit, and really is putting Optimus Gang in a weird spot.
Look, if you get to this point with Geb Solo, you've done it. I mean, you're in a great spot to try and not just do well in a game, but outright carry a game, because you do a ton of damage. You do % health with your Cataclysm, so that's pretty good. Shockwave and Rollout both hit really, really hard. And like you said, when you're this far ahead, your Geb shields are huge and really impossible to punch through. Look at that. Ferrocrick's bombs don't even get the whole duration of 1 Geb shield. Good poke coming from Doku as well, as Caspanify will join in with help from Living Nightmare. That might be enough to force Milky Way back, but Shoxy Foxy sustain is there. Now, Ferrocrick did end up finishing a Divine Ruin So his poke is going to be critical, but that's why Milky Way is so far back. They won't be hit by those bombs.
That's right, and just utilizing that monolith from Shoxy Foxy. Going to do a 4-1 split, 4-on-4 in the mid lane, as Milky Way is going to send Get Fisher to farm the solo side, while Sibby still dead for a little bit longer, or still just respawning now and getting back into the team fight, getting all this farm. That tower's going to take a little bit of chip damage on the right side.
Get Fisher's got to use the beads, but he kills Original that easily. I mean, that is insane damage coming from the Susano. Blink Geb Shield as well. No way Sibby can punch through all that health. And Get Fisher able to get an easy solo kill. Cosmos Purification beads. But Original, again, just unable to stand up. He was down by quite a bit of leveling, and that certainly contributed. But man, I mean, Wind Siphon looked like it did half of Original's health.
I mean, it's a level 11 Circuit, so therefore your base health pool is just not as high as the level 14 Susanoo. I believe it's around 80-something for Assassins per level. And as a result, not having that extra 240 health. Yeah, Wind Siphon looks like it does a lot. Transcendence on the board for Get Fisher. Original going for a very hybrid build now, working on this Shifter Shield on the Circuit, trying to get that physical power, but with it's only tier 2 right now, so not able to survive against this Susanoo.
Not a bad idea from Original when you're behind to get a defensive option that also doesn't hurt your DPS by that much. But again, I mean, you need a ton of pen to punch through this double Guardian setup from Milky Way, and I just don't know who's doing the damage to this Geb solo at this point. I mean, Caspanify is working on a chin size. That'll certainly help, but it's going to take him a long time to get him down.
Wow, 2 bombs just not even breaking through this Geb shield. I think that this Geb pick has certainly worked out for Milky Way. If you weren't going to find kills on him early, you certainly aren't going to find it now.
Get Fisher as well has looked very good so far on the Susano. As it feels like Milky Way has all the momentum in the world, doesn't it? But Optimus Gang is only down 1,000 gold. Yep. Now, they should be down a lot in XP. 3,000 confirms my suspicions there. But it isn't over for Optimus Gang by any stretch. Shoxy Foxy isolated and dazzling offensive views. Original decided to hold on to that last breath.
Rooted right off the bat. Sibby gonna get stunned out. Supernova coming through. Shoxy Foxy in a little bit of trouble as he receives the Geb shield. Little 1v1 action in the backhand side. Teleporting through the jet stream. Get Fisher with a solo kill.
Assassin v Assassin. Get Fisher ends up on top. Nice stun from Ferrocrick, but just not enough damage on the back end to confirm Shoxy Foxy.
Yeah, I'm starting to agree with you more and more as I see this cooldown reduction Agni aggro, because the damage from Ferrocrick, he's spamming, don't get me wrong, he's top of the player damage charts, but they're just able to reset. Milky Way goes back, heals off of the Monolith, and a lot of that damage is also like absorbed as a sponge out of Sixer's Geb shield. Yeah. So at the end of the day, I think Ferrocrick is kicking himself.
This is it's just kind of, CDR has always felt like a trap to me at a competitive level, because yes, it does so much for you and you get to use your abilities, but so often at this sort of level, in the SPL level, your fights are determined in the first 3 seconds of the fight. And so you need to get your first burst of damage, your first rotation of cooldowns needs to be as impactful as possible. And full CDR just prevents you from doing that.
That's right. Sixer's Geb shield right at this moment at level 16 is providing a 570 health shield, whereas the Agni bomb stuns are around 220 damage plus the scaling. So Sixer can basically absorb 2 of those bombs easy peasy.
Really not too worried about it at all. Looks like Ferrocrick going for more pen. Good idea against, again, a double front line. Obsidian Shard would be exactly what the doctor ordered, but we'll see if it's enough as Milky Way goes back to the Gold Fury once more. They've already secured 1 so far in this game. Sixer going to solo alt Fusify. Big commit onto the support, and it works out. Shoxy Foxy low again, but Earth and Fury there. It should be able to heal him up in just a minute. Monolith should be coming soon as well. So Milky Way going to reset for the moment, knowing they've got a 25-second power play.
Wow, just no hesitation, dumping everything onto Fusify. I believe that they had the timer on his relics, because look at this shell and sprint. Still not available for another 15 seconds. Optimus Gang are assuming Milky Way is doing the Gold Fury, but I think Milky Way has other intentions here, Aggro.
Looks to send 2 to get the Gold Fury. Optimus Gang does manage to secure the Pyromancer, despite Milky Way sending some tanks over to try and contest it. So Optimus Gang at least gets something, and they are clawing their way still in this game. I mean, they are really holding on, it feels like. Milky Way is towering over them on the cliff edge, but Optimus Gang still there.
That's very true. And now with Obsidian Shard for Farrakrick, this could be a crucial pickup to start really chunking away at Milky Way. Because even though Farrakrick did go for cooldown reduction, a 6-slot at Agni is still going to be a 6-slot at Agni. So once that Mage's Blessing is off the board and we're approaching that 30 to 35 minute mark, I still think Farrakrick will be very crucial in some of these team fights.
When looking at the drafts, this RDO solo was really stood out to me as a great selection up against Susano, up against Terra.
Oh, yeah.
But the decision to put Sixer on the Geb instead of the Terra, keep the Terra away from that bad lane matchup, I think was a really wise one for Milky Way. And Sibby hasn't been able to make an impact in these fights because Milky Way has been able to get such good initiations every time.
I also think that the Terra is just better early game in team fights as opposed to a Geb at the end of the day, because you're not really benefiting that much from a Geb shield at like the level 1 marker. It's only about 50 health shield plus 20 per level. Doku going to avoid the second bomb. And as a result, you put the Geb in the oven, he comes out in 20 minutes, and then everyone's just feasting from Milky Way.
Delicious every time when you get a Geb solo that's able to do this much. Sixer working towards what could be something like a mystical mail. He's going to blink initiate here. Farrakrick has to use the purification beads, but Sibby's zoning away perfectly. Big stun from him. Damage from Original onto Doku, but not a whole lot to write home about. Fusify getting lower, but Caspanify comes in. Living Nightmare chunking down Shoxy Foxy, but he can't get the kill.
Oh, Get Fisher's going to get stunned away. Now trying to escape, but he can't because that RDO cripple. Now Sibby's in a lot of trouble. E-Chrome taking him out.
Chrome has been putting in the damage so far this game. Top of Milky Way in the player damage department. And get some more there. That chin size build really lets him chunk through that RDO, even with the Midgardian mail for Sibby. And just like that, Milky Way get the tier 1 and head towards Fire Giant. Pyromancer's down, which means they have to commit to the big boy if they're going for an objective.
It's a bait. They're using the healing. The wall is going to separate away Caspanify. Bombs are raining in. Get Fisher just streams away. Finally, the rock crumbles down. His Original is leading the charge. Fusify using the Amaterasu passive movement speed to try to find a little bit more action.
This is exactly what Optimus Gang needed. Now it's Milky Way on the run. Original still up front. Has the ultimate coming up soon. But it looks like they'll fall back. Taunt on the Shoxy Foxy, and Original indeed will back up. Get Fisher's Typhoon used, and look at this. The 2 damage dealers from Optimus Gang have been on Fire Giant this whole time. It's already down to half.
They're going to secure this aggro. I don't think that Doku can get there in time. Shoxy Foxy's going to get zoned away as well. Fire Giant to Optimus Gang, despite being behind most of this game.
Shoxy Foxy likely to fall as well. Sibby gets himself on the board, and now Original last breath on the Get Fisher. Big damage coming from Farrakrick's bombs, but still not quite enough to bring him down. But Optimus Gang come roaring back. This game has felt like it's been Milky Way's from minute 1. Well, maybe not minute 1 because Optimus Gang got that dual lane first blood, but for minute whatever it was. And all of a sudden, Optimus Gang are in control again. This is an impressive performance from them.
One little misstep. Sixer was out of position without his Cataclysm. It was used to engage in the tier 1 mid tower. And after all the cooldowns from Milky Way, it just wasn't enough to fight 5-on-4 after losing their Geb Soul Laner. They don't have the ability to soak in Farrakrick's damage because, like we said before, like he has so many bombs at this point that he's just freely raining down, and without that Geb shield, Farrakrick's damage just continue to skyrocket.
Now Optimus Gang have the Fire Giant. They're going to look to get some objectives. They need the gold because it's still very close. I like Milky Way not giving up tier 2 towers. Tier 1, give them up. Never want to defend a tier 1 at this point in the game in my mind, but a tier 2, that's gold worth holding on to.
And a lot of this also comes down to this Gauntlet of Thieves so late from Shoxy Foxy, whereas Fusify's had it for a hot minute.
Blink Cataclysm from Sixer onto the 2 tanks. Fusify able to stun him in return, and there's the last breath on a Sixer as well. Damage ticking down, and Caspanify able to get the kill. That may have spread. Indeed, it did. Shoxy Foxy now down to half HP, stun from Farrakrick, and he puts down the Terra. E-Chrome can't bring down Fusify, and Optimus Gang able to start it off 2 for 0.
What an impressive performance. Optimus Gang are the ones sieging now. And honestly, that was a very late ultimate from Shoxy Foxy when there was so much engagement and dumped abilities onto Sixer's Geb. Where was that Earth and Fury? It was used basically when the Geb was already at 12 to 20% health, and as a result, now in a 5-on-3, the rest of Optimus Gang going for the Phoenix.
Phoenix is pretty healthy, but so is Caspanify. He's the one that's going to be doing the bulk of the damage here. Beads are up for him. Is stunned onto Doku, and he never even gets a chance to Aegis. Caspanify puts him down. E-Chrome's got an airstrike away, and Mid-Phoenix is going down here, Totally. Get Fisher's Typhoon does a little bit of work to Ferrocryk, but there it goes. Mid-Phoenix goes down for Optimus Gang. Now they've got to get on the run.
An all-out retreat now. Optimus Gang got what they wanted, though, which was that Firebird. The question remains is, do they have time to really sneak this Gold Fury with Sixer back up? He's going to be looking for a little revenge after falling under that Tier 2 tower, but doesn't seem that they're interested in contesting this one. Optimus Gang going to get a little bit of a 6,000 to 7,000 gold lead after this one and continue their pressure.
What happened to Milky Way in this game?
That one pick onto Sixer around the Fire Giant. And they also took a little bit of damage. The Monolith healing from Shoxy Foxy is not a really great, reliable heal to be able to get back into a combat. You might want to use 2 of those to be able to get in. It's more of a utility to allow your Lotus Crown to keep some of your targets alive. But because everyone was a little low for Milky Way, because Sixer was very far out of position without his Cataclysm and finding that pick, Optimus Gang crawls their way right back into it.
Sixer has Blink right here. Living Nightmare used by Caspanify. He was really worried someone was going to come and interrupt all 3 of those backs. Ferrocryk had already backed, so Caspanify a little bit delayed, and now without Living Nightmare for an extended period of time. It's a global ultimate, so it's got a longer cooldown. But even under the Tier 2 tower fight, that's one, sure. The Sixer gets picked by fire. Yeah, Optimus Gang are going to win that fight. Then the Tier 2 tower fight was so one-sided in Optimus Gang's favor, and it felt like Sixer was on a different page than his backline members. He gets a really good Cataclysm off. Shoxy Foxy's ultimate is late, as you mentioned.
Yep.
Get Fisher's ultimate wasn't there. And Doku and E-Chrome were kind of nowhere to be found.
I think also, like we were mentioning, the difference of the Gauntlet of Thebes, still stacking it as Shoxy Foxy, and the Talisman of Energy from Fusify. So you're looking at more movement speed, more attack speed for the whole entire gang out of Optimus. Getting that under the Tier 2 tower just blew up Sixer. The chin size from Caspanify just melts this Geb.
Caspanify has done great work so far in this game, and Ferrocryk continues to hold on to the top damage slot. And as you mentioned, now that he's got Soul Reaver, getting as many procs as possible off that Soul Reaver has been pretty impactful in these team fights. Still not won over by the build, but if you get to this point, it's pretty good.
Oh, yeah. We were talking about it. 6-slotted Agni is going to do the damage once he sells Mage's Blessing. Where do you think he's going to go from here? I'm predicting it should be a Rod of Tahuti for the extra damage.
Rod would be pretty good. Could see Soul Gem as well, because you're getting so many abilities off. You're getting that healing across your team. You're getting those extra procs. And it does get you to 40% CDR. Then if he gets Purple Pot, he's a little bit overcapped on CDR. But that is one of my favorite arguments, or my least favorite arguments, is that Purple Pot gives you 10% CDR, so you should never build CDR. And it's like, if Purple Pot didn't have 10% CDR, I'd still be buying it.
Yeah, you would still pick it up.
Exactly. I'm not buying it for the cooldown reduction.
Yeah,
so
it's for the damage.
In fact, he actually goes for more cooldown reduction, which is the Spear of Desolation. So he goes triple pen up against this front line. Usually triple pen's a no-no, but without pen boots, I think it can make some sense here.
So it's 20 from Spear of Desolation, 15 from Divine Ruin.
Yes.
So you're still like under cap. And considering Obsidian Shard is percentage based, you're not really messing with that flat pen at the end of the day. So I still like this style from Ferrocryk because now he's fully slotted. Sixer, if you thought he fell very quickly at the Tier 2 tower, just till you wait to see this next team fight.
Certainly a lot of possibility for damage onto the frontliners even now from this build from Ferrocryk. You know what I think Milky Way's lacking? A Rod of Asclepius. I think I'd rather see Sixer get a Rod of Asclepius than, say, the Oni Hunter's Garb.
Sure.
Yes, it makes him less tanky, but that healing, that additional healing, he gets health from it, he gets movement speed from it, and that additional healing is so good for Shoxy Foxy in these team fights that he might be too far behind to be able to pick it up, but Sixer was so far ahead, I think he could have gotten away with it.
Sixer's only tankier conditionally if he's next to 3 targets, which he's not, so he's not actually benefiting from that Oni's Hunter's Garb. Sibby was able to, keep Sixer in place alongside Ferrocryk. These bomb stuns have certainly made it difficult for Milky Way to defend under their own Phoenixes.
Shoxy Foxy going to take about 500 from that bomb. Not too bad now for Farrakrick. Nice double stun from Shoxy Foxy, but Optimus Gang have all time in the world here. I mean, they can just wait until that fire minion wave starts pushing.
It's so difficult for Sixer to blink in now with this Odysseus bow, but there he goes.
Big damage coming from Farrakrick, and that forced out some defensive options from Milky Way, and it still wasn't enough to save Sixer. Getfisher doing what he can in the front line, but Caspanify is able to Odibo him down. That's the shutdown on the Getfisher. That's actually Getfisher's first death of the game so far. Sibby did back, but he's got teleport upgraded, so he's able to rejoin this fight without a problem. And now Optimus Gang resumes the siege, this time 5v3.
This could be the game, Aggro, if they can find one more pick yet again. Sixer goes in, Shoxy Foxy too far away to give him that Earth and Fury to mitigate some of this damage, and just finding a pick on the Geb now. Still dead for 25 seconds. Optimus Gang crossing their T's and dotting their I's before the signature of the Titan.
They've got 20 seconds nearly on Sixer, so you imagine that they could probably just push for the end right here. They're going to go for it. Mid-wave coming in. E-Chrome no longer healthy and no longer there. Sibby able to get one, Farrakrick the other, and Optimus Gang steal a victory away from Milky Way. Only 20 kills in 32 minutes, but that one was very, very close. And I guarantee Milky Way's looking back at that one saying we should have had it.
They had the kill lead, for sure, but they never really extended it to objectives. Even though they did get the one goal Fury, they weren't able to get the second one and get any towers collectively. They had a 5-on-4 advantage, and what do? They put 4 players mid, they put Getfisher in the solo lane, and that's not how you play Smite at the highest of levels. If you have a one-man power play, use that, just run it down mid.
Group it up and run it down mid, but either way, Milky Way end up just short. If they don't finish top 3, I think this one's really going to haunt them. Whereas on the other side, Optimus Gang, they're already guaranteed top 3, and seeding doesn't matter because it's a round robin, so you're kind of already guaranteed for Optimus Gang. But still, I think that is a confidence booster at some level, right? Where Johnny, I'm sure they're sick of us talking about Johnny all the time as the primary carry for that team. And they're able to get a win without him.
Especially when you have Fusify playing Amaterasu, and they have like these sneaky tactics for the first blood, which went to Caspanify, and Caspanify and the Chernobog just ran rampage on the late game. This Odysseus build made it difficult for Sixer to blink in when he really wanted to. And then finally he felt pressured to blink in whenever he had the ability to, and as a result, Shoxy Foxy just wasn't in range for follow-up.
Well, let us know who you thought the MVP was in that game. I think you got a lot of good options. Caspanify played great on that Chernobog. Farrakrick's full CDR build ended up doing work in the later stages. We will be going over the MVP later on as we close the day on the desk. But Optimus Gang able to steal one away. Milky Way now not looking so good. It's a total traffic jam for that third spot right now, and we'll see who is going to end up there. Only 2 weeks to go. Well, a week and whatever we got left today. And what we got left today is 3 more sets, so we're going to go to a quick break, and we'll be right back with more European Minor League.
Welcome back to the SMITE Minor League. Finch here, joined by Taco as we move into our next matchup of the day. A chance to look at Insignum, as Optimus Gang just got through taking care of business, even with a bit of a roster change there. They couldn't play with Johnny, it looked like.
Cutting it close, though, for Optimus Gang. It's not a comfortable victory, for sure. I definitely think that the team might still feel a little bit unsettled there, but for now, it's all about Insignum and whether or not they can make sure to get their victory also.
That's right, Insignum trying to close things out. I'm fairly certain Insignum are in our round-robin stage anyway, but at 6 wins, truly no one would be able to force them out. So this win, just nice comfort for the team as we move into the picks and ban stage here for this set, or rather Insignum up against Exordium, another strong squad in their own right. Almost called them Optimus Gang. I just like watching Optimus Gang, I think.
It's the fish, I think.
They're fun to watch.
I'm not even trolling, though. I actually think they're the fish, because I've done the same thing before with Exordium, so I definitely understand that. But Insignum, you know, bragging rights a little bit on the line here if they're able to maybe try and close things out. But like you mentioned, they are already sealed away, I believe, for that round-robin stage. Still, don't want to give any of the chances. This is where Insignum can play spoiler for Exordium, essentially.
Yes, much, much more important across the way. Insignum maybe not as much, but Exordium very much need this win here, Taco, especially with Milky Way just dropping Optimus Gang a moment ago. Now, this is an opportunity for Exordium to find a win. The points up against these top 2 teams are particularly valuable, as it's unlikely anyone else will have them, aside from maybe 1 or 2 people who can get that win. So Exordium very, very much want this one. Awesome. They're going to be doing it with Pele, first pick selection for the jungle, or maybe even solo.
I'm a little bit blown away by Insignum's choice of bans, but keep in mind, these players, they know what others like, and when it comes to a competitive level of play, you can sometimes afford to go for a bit of a target ban as opposed to some guys that are tending to see a lot of playtime because they're just really, they're just considered very strong right now. And I like the response, though, from Insignum to go for the Terra. I think that root could be essential in terms of shutting down the Pele's freedom of mobility.
Perhaps that root could certainly be one thing that could slow her down. Bakasura comes in as well. So 2 very strong assassins already picked up, and the Kumbhakarna, because apparently what you need with those assassins is a ton of control, and Exordium certainly have that now in spades with that Kumbhakarna. A lot of lockdown, and all the burst you can want.
I don't know about all the burst you can want. I think that one of the concerns for Exordium is that it is a lot of melee burst damage. You do need to get fairly close and within a range, and so that's why I like what Insignum opted for in this Agni, because the best way to punish those guys that have to all-in commit is to take the big spread space control damage that Agni is going to be able to provide with those AoE bombs, not to mention the stuns as well. Could be very effective in limiting Bakasura's chase down with the Butcher Blades. We all know how much Baka loves his haste and katana, and I'm also expecting this to be a Pele solo scene that Bakasura pick up.
I think so too. That's likely where we're going to see that Pele come in, as a couple of mages taken off the board for Insignum, so they certainly agree they don't want to have to deal with some nice range added on to these assassins rather that have already been picked up on the side of Exordium. Serket and Cerberus banned out by Exordium. They're trying to take away some control, but you can't take away the Amaterasu unless you ban it. And there it is for Insignum.
This is the pick that I was waiting for, though, from Exordium. We've seen so much first pick Amma, but can't blame them for taking the Pele instead. Artemis, though, is a rather interesting choice into the composition that Insignum have drafted for. I'm very concerned for this Artemis because she has limited or low mobility as is, and now having to deal with an Amaterasu, Terra, the chase and dive potential for Insignum is only getting stronger.
Very curious. I like this initially from Exordium, this sort of draft they're going for, but the AoE is the part where I might be feeling a bit worried. They do have the cones from Pele, the cones from Bakasura. You know, Freya kind of can get a little bit of splash damage too, but nothing compared to what an Agni is going to be doing.
I think that if Exordium had opted for another Guardian or even a Warrior that can introduce some more crowd control, I would have really liked this draft from them, but seeing them pretty much opt solely for damage, I just am not sure that they're going to be able to deal with Insignum's interruptance factors, because there is a lot of interrupt from Insignum's side of things, and I'm a little bit surprised. I'll admit it. Exordium, they take the Kuma and they just assume that's going to be good enough.
It is a lot of control. We'll see if they can make it work for them. They have Kha'Zix, one of their stronger players, on the Pele over in the solo lane, as we expected once that Bakasura got locked in. So certainly some carry potential. But seeing a different starter from Kha'Zix, we've seen a rush right into Glad Shield. I think we saw Soul Eater just in a little bit earlier on as well, rushed. But what we're seeing here is going right into the boots.
And I don't mind seeing the boots rush either for a Pele. I would imagine that Kha'Zix is probably going to be leaning towards a Glad Shield later on down the line, or even that Soul Eater. We've been seeing a lot of Soul Eater Gladiator Shield combinations for Pele because of her self-sustain, and they just add into the bundle. But Death Banner going to be ticking into level 2 just a little bit sooner than Angry Day on this mid lane Freya. And for Angry Day as well, I think Freya's definitely going to struggle a little bit during this laning phase as soon as Death Banner hits level 5.
Yeah, there's definitely a chance those bombs can outrange the Freya. Even if maybe right at the initial moment, the Angry Day might have a small advantage. It likely won't last long. Zero piloting the Amaterasu, which can just traditionally lose some early levels. Here against the Pele, I don't know if that's going to be the same case. Pele can be a little slow to get off the ground running, not always looking to fight in these early levels in the Soul Lane matchup, so Zero might actually be in a pretty good spot on this Ama.
Zero also has teleport, unlike Kha'Zix, who's elected for the blink early on, so he won't be able to get blamed back in time. Speaking of which, Angry Day now wishing that he had an escape route other than the Alka with the Bakasura. There's no assistance, no peel or anything that can get him away, and that's going to be his beads and the first blood.
Angry Day goes down, Sash sets that up, and an aggressive dash to follow up from Death Banner. A nice easy kill for Insignum in the middle lane. Alka and Angry Day not posing much of a threat, I would say, to this jungle mid of Insignum on the opposite side. In fact, Lasma free to go grab those back Harpies too, not only taking that farm, but Angry Day took that pathing to try and grab them on the way back to lane as well. Missed out on that farm too.
Death Banner is sure to have just pinged out. The Bakasura already went for the invade onto Lasbra's jungle, and Lasbra, I highly doubt that he's really all that surprised. Bakasura is going to end up stealing away at least 1 or 2 camps. The real question is whether or not Insignum are going to be there to respawn next time it tries to go for it. Alka can get away with it, I think, during these earlier phases, but as soon as the ultimates start getting online for the members of Insignum, I would expect them to try to just contest this Baka head-on.
That's going to be the idea, I'd imagine, trying to lock him down. Kha'Zix returning the favor to the Amaterasu here in solo lane with those Warrior Tabi, putting in some hurt over on the duo lane. Some pain there as well, but Death Banner may not have any escape options. Very little mana. An Angry Day found some good poke, but not anything that could lead to a kill.
Just not enough damage online quite yet for the Freya, especially since Angry Day, with that early death, is going to get stunned down here one more time by Lasbra's Sash. But like I was saying, Angry Day having that early death means that he won't be able to go for that Book of Thoth Rush that he was originally aiming for. Now trying to lean towards the boots to get a little bit more survivability online, but that is going to end up ultimately slowing down his power spike.
Now, Taco, we highlighted what we thought could be a potential weakness to the Exordium roster, right? That they don't have that much AoE or maybe even enough control that, like, typically you might get from a mage, or if they had gone with another Guardian here. What are some ways they can try and cover that up? Is it going to have to be, like, looking for single target picks? They need to go for objectives? What does Exordium have to try and do to get around that? Extreme
amounts of single target picks. I do feel like the damage members from Exordium have more than enough bursts to kill one individual from Insignum instantly. That doesn't faze me in the slightest. The concern is after the fact, because Insignum are a well-coordinated team. They're not like some of the more amateurish teams that we tend to see in the minor league. I think that because of all their player knowledge and experience, they know to just stay grouped into compositions like what Exordium is trying to run with all this single target execution. So with that in mind, Exordium are mostly going to have to try and play around the jungle. I do feel as though jungle fights could possibly favor them.
Kha'Zix has to use that ultimate defensively to get away from dazzling offensive from Zero in the solo side, where boots are finished for Zero as well, but he also has a Guardian's Blessing to help him out. Taka, one more build path I'm noticing here is that Death Banner went right ahead and finished off the Book of Thoth and has those stacks going, but Angry Day was not afforded that same luxury. He's gone right into the boots.
Again, Angry Day kind of just forced out of being able to buy the Book of Thoth Rush straight up. It would have just slowed him down way too much, and Death Banner is now starting to build into his own boots. So it was just better in the long run, I feel, for Angry Day to just get those Shoes of Focus, or excuse me, to get the Pen Boots online early, look for as much damage as possible from this item, but more importantly, just make sure that he can live inside of the mid lane.
Going to be the idea from trying to find a way to stay alive. Angry Day already under some pressure early on. He was that first blood still. Don't forget. His partner, though, in the jungle, Alka, does have his Golden Blade finished off first item. This is something we're seeing. Rushed on Mercury's, yes, but on Bakasura's, you still want to rush the Golden Blade.
It's a little bit different, but I'm curious to see how it works out for Alka. I think some of this is also just coming down to player preference, and I don't think that Alka would be... It's a risk versus reward situation more than anything else. The main gripe that I think people would encounter, or even myself is having with this Golden Blade rush on the Bakasura, is it'll be much more difficult for Alka to try and all-in commit onto any single member from Insignum, and that's kind of the emphasis around Bakasura, is using the Butcher Blades to target out one member in particular and then burst them down before they have a chance to respond.
That's going to be the idea, right? You want to be able to burst them quickly. We did just see with the camp, though, sort of the idea from Alka. He's able to focus his autos on the mid camp, and by the time it's low enough to be eaten by the eaten minion, the splash damage is sort of taking care of those side minions. So in that way, it does kind of speed up his clear. He doesn't have that great of an ability to clear with. Sometimes you even see him using the leap for that, but this Golden Blade might kind of speed that up for him a bit.
Have to wait and see just how much it benefits, though, into that Bakasura clear. Because Alka's already got incredibly strong clear on the Baka, so I would expect that maybe... Or actually, I want to see Alka looking for invades nonstop. It's not that I'm going to expect this any longer. I just want to see the players take the initiative upon themselves to abuse the advantages that they have early on.
I agree, Alka has that opportunity, but where can he go? Insignum have done such a good job of staying on top of their buffs this game so far, and that's what you expect. Insignum are top in sort of spring and summer. They were the European minor league champs. They found the win in summer, not so much in spring. But now here in fall, Optimus Gang have risen as challengers to them in the fall split. But still, Insignum are the ones with that history. They're the team that respond very well when they see these kind of strategies come out from their opponents. And right now, they're making it difficult for Exordium. But the game's still very, very even early on.
Still super early on. I think that's the main reason why we see this little bit of a lull in the action.
Sure.
Typically, I do feel like Insignum would probably be trying to pressure Exordium just a little bit harder, but they're respecting the Bakasura and the buff confirm power that he has. So I don't think that Insignum want to go for a 50-50 coin flip on any of these jungle camps and then risk not only losing the buff, but having a member be out of position as a result of looking for the invade.
It's now Insignum who are grouping up and moving into the jungle, Taka. They've got about 4 members on this dual side of the map, but they're not going to extend any further with the red buff already confirmed. I am a little surprised we haven't seen more aggression onto Angry Day in the middle lane, but I think now that he has the ultimate, he's that much safer. Alka kind of poses some risk as well. It's not so much they'll control you, they'll just kill you if you all in commit is kind of their strat.
That initial level 2 gank, though, from Lasbra that took down Angry Day early on, there was a decent amount of damage between Lasbra and Death Panner, and you have to keep in mind, sure, Angry Day is getting damage online, but the same could be said for Insignum's mid and jungle.
Right. I'm right there with you. I think they're certainly getting some damage. I am having a mild heart attack, though, because I would like Alka to buy boots. I would like that to happen. But he's he likes swords. He's picking them up, walking around with them.
Finch, I honestly wouldn't be opposed to seeing a katana rush of Hasten Katana into the stone cutting, and that's 30% movement speed between those 3 katanas alone. And you kind of don't need the boots.
They're so good, Taco.
They're nice to have, but Alka is willing to take his chances with the Hasten Katana. The Hasten effect is going to give him the ability to still stick to a member of Insignum, even if they have boots online. So I think that if you're going to go for a more bizarre direction, Bakasura is definitely one of the characters that can flex it. And now Angry Day wishing.
Wraparound, though, from Alka, drops down the Regurgitate on the Lasbra, but is able to get out of there with his own ultimate. Genetics wants to keep up the aggression. Angry Day responds with a Valkyrie's Discretion right into the stun, though, coming out from Genetics. It's perfect. Sets up Joshi to find Alka, and Popular in some trouble as well. He has the epic uppercut, but put it right into the passive and will certainly fall.
Death Panner will take the last hit confirmation, though, onto Popular, and now, just like that, Insignum, they not only find 2 kills, they're also going to get the T1 tower in mid, burst it down just way too quickly with all 5 members in mid lane. And it feels like this rotation was instant from Insignum, and yet no one from Exordium, they're incapable of responding, because even if they did try to contest this Gold Fury, they know that they would just be destroyed and controlled.
But what a tough fight from Exordium. If you're Alka on the Bakasura, especially if you're going to go Golden Blade first item, them all clumped together in that narrow corridor kind of has to be the regurgitate dream. But he wasn't able to stick around long enough to get any shots off. Lasbro immediately ults right on by, and Alka kind of has to jump to avoid it. That ends up putting him out of position. He no longer has that great setup, and Insignum run the fight from there.
Alka also taking a decent chunk of his health just from trying to burst down this Pyromancer. Zero spotted it out, though. Dazzling Offense one more time, looking for the steal, and it's going to be good!
That's insane. Zero somehow strips it away with the Dazzling Offensive. No real way for Exordium to force him out once he's inside the ultimate itself, Taco. Unfortunate.
But why not just reset the objective?
Yeah.
You can reset the objective, and then the Dazzling Offense won't end up stealing it away from you. And Zero, I doubt he has any complaints about Exordium trying to still force that Pyromancer down, but Angry Day, on the other hand, is in a bit of a tough spot now. Not only did he lose his T1 tower in mid, but they can't even confirm the Pyromancer to get at least a little bit of peace of mind for Exordium in terms of catch-up potential. I do think that we saw the result, though, of this risky draft from Exordium already in that mid lane engagement.
That hurt him in that mid lane engagement because as well as I think they played the start of it, it was genetics who really punished them as Zero's used the Dazzling Offensive to try and get himself out of trouble. Alka still wants the chase. Butcher Blades does good damage. Kha'Zix can now handle the aggro, but they dropped the chase. I can't believe it.
Just not enough damage for Alka. He went for the Golden Blade and the Hasty Katana. Now it's going to be a turnaround. And Lasbro with the Windfire and Wheels, not even needed, but he'll take it anyway for the style. Kha'Zix still hiding underneath his tower. And Death Banner could get caught out here.
Now Death Panner could be in some trouble. Angry Day's up in the air and putting down some return fire, but Death Panner finds Kha'Zix on the back end. Now the Tier 1 tower dive comes out from Insignum onto Angry Day. Nowhere for him to go. Popular finds the two-man root sash off the mark. Zero not going to be able to continue to chase the Kumbhakarna, but a Tier 1 tower for Insignum. Exordium do not have the answers.
Running after the Kumba is just a waste of time for Insignum. They'd rather open up the map pressure even further. Exordium already lost their T1 in mid. Now they've lost their T1 in solo as well. There's pretty much no safe room to move in Exordium's jungle for the mid and solo side of the map. And even if Alka wanted to try and alleviate some of that pressure by diverting attention towards duo, how is he meant to get off a successful gank against Joshi, who's got the airstrike, the agility off the persistent gust? It just feels like this Bakasura is more handicapped by Exordium's lack of crowd control than anything else.
It does help. I mean, it does hurt them in some ways. Kha'Zix and Alka were going for that dive onto Zero on the Tier 1 tower, right? And they end up giving up on it because they felt like they didn't have the damage to burn him down. But on the back end, they end up paying for it anyway. They lose the fight with Insignum. At least start that with a kill as Alka gets hunted down by Death Panner. The Bakasura a little bit too far forward and dies on the left-hand side. Once they'd committed that much positioning on the right-hand side, they weren't going to make it out for free anyway.
You pretty much have to just all in at that point. Even if Zero walks away with a double kill, you still should look for the chance, because walking away with, I believe it was 3 kills in total that Exordium actually ended up dropping there, and now it's about to get even worse. Popular could end up falling next, already down to half health. Don't believe he has that passive available either on the Kumbhakarna.
Kha'Zix in some trouble in the middle lane as well. Had to expend the Thorns to get away from Zero and Lasbra and their aggression as the Tier 1 towers down in mid and solo, but not in duo. Up in the air is Lasbra. He's got Angry Day, brings him right back down. Death Panner waiting with the flames and burns Angry Day away. Zero going to continue the chase over on the right-hand side, trying to find Alka, who's very, very low. Eatmanen is going to get him some HP so he can try and heal up, but Zero's very fast and will continue to chase as Popular in trouble left.
Well, Popular did have the passive, but it doesn't even matter. It's not going to be able to save the life of himself or his teammate. Kensick's going to end up falling just for being in the duo lane with them. And this aggression from Insignum has no intentions of slowing down. They go from one point to the next. First is the T1 tower, now is the T2 tower. Finch, we're not even at the 15-minute mark, and more than half of the structures for Exordium have been removed already.
Yeah, it's definitely a bad spot, I would say, now here for Exordium. They've let the game get away from them quite quickly. 10,000 experience, 8,500 gold in Insignum's favor. and they did it by being the aggressors. They did a great job in that fight in the middle lane. They're now going to grab the gold tree as well, because why not? Responding to the aggression very well in solo. It only took a couple of fights for this to get out of control.
I don't even think Alka really knows what he wants to build at this stage. He's just torn in between committing towards another katana item or finishing off the boots, just anything to try and get him away. But you have to remember, Zero on this Amaterasu is going to have so much additional movement speed that Insignum are probably going to be able to keep up with this Baka no matter what anyway.
He's too far behind at this point anyway. I mean, he's the same level as Genetics. Level 11 right now. It's going to be a difficult path for this Bakasura back to relevance, sitting second in player damage, only above Popular as well. So I agree his build path has at this point become a bit of a mess. It's hard for him to find the right path. I believe he's essentially only getting movement speed at this point too from the tier 1, so it's not a ton of help he's getting. And Signum have kind of put him in a bad spot. Okay, some power coming from him.
To be fair, I also don't think that the Golden Blade Rush is the reason why Alka is struggling this much. I think it honestly mostly just comes down to the fact that Lasbra and Death Panther have been very in sync with each other in terms of their aggression and control. I love that Death Panther is just always immediately waiting right at the bottom. You don't see Lasbra without seeing Death Panther for the most part.
Yeah, it's sort of like, you know, if you're on a sinking ship, but you put some stuff in the wrong cabinets, it doesn't really matter, right? The ship was sinking from the beginning because I think they were off a bit in the drafting phase of this one, and Signum kind of caught them out. And they'll now grab the Pyromancer as well. And yeah, why not turn a look towards the Fire Giant? At this point, Exordium can't exactly afford to come in and fight you, and if they do, just turn around and kill them, but that's not even going to be the case. It's only Popular who's nearby going to try and defend, while the rest of Exordium look for the mid-Phoenix. Up in the air by Lasbra. Fire Giant should be confirmed while he's busy elsewhere, and Signum grab it, and the life of Popular on the back end.
Nothing more that Popular can really do there except try to buy his teammates more time to split push these towers on the opposite sides of the map. 3 members of Exordium grouped up looking to take down this T2, but it might not even be possible. Zero's trying to use the teleportation to get there in time, but the creeps have come out for Alka. Everything being expended right now, Zero could end up falling.
He does still have the dash available, allow him to reposition. Alka blinks in, and he does have that hasten katana, remember? So he is going to be able to chase, but the Phoenix, too strong. Zero with the turnaround puts Alka down, and they find the Phoenix on the right-hand side. Exordium at the very least grabbed the tier 2 in duo, but it just might not have been enough.
I respect Alka's commitment underneath that left side Phoenix. It was pretty apparent that he wasn't doing much damage even with the Butcher Blades procced. It just felt stubborn, but also he had nothing really to lose there. If he gets the kill on Zero, who's 5 levels ahead of him, that's only going to be a huge win for the Bakasura. And if he dies, well, that's already happened plenty enough this game to where he's in a drastically far behind position as is, so there really wasn't much else that Alka could have done there in that situation.
Once he'd already chased underneath the Phoenix, I suppose, yes. As we said earlier, just go all in on it. But, I mean, every moment up until then, probably he could have still walked away.
It's just a little bit desperate, but I'm not surprised because desperation tends to become a factor when you find yourself as far behind as Alka in this match. And Bakasura, arguably one of the worst assassins to be this far behind on, because it's so hard to contribute anything to a team fight. Right now, Alka's best benefit to Exordium is the fact that his ultimate can cripple.
That's right. He does so little outside from damage, which is why I think you're saying that, right? Some of these other junglers, you know, Thor, Rat, can at least knock up stun, walls, that sort of thing to try and help out the team, but Alka would be able to contribute very little. He has committed, though, to this blade tree build. He's got the golden blade, the hastened katana, the stone cutting sword, and tier 1 of boots at this point, but why? I mean, why bother? You know, I might as well go for the quadrant.
Watching Zero close in on Alka, though, you kind of just remember, like, I'm the one who's actually fast here.
Yeah.
That's what it seems like Zero is saying to Alka pretty much, and with the completion, though, of that stone cutting, I don't think that Alka had the stone cutting when he tried to commit to Zero underneath that left-hand Phoenix, but now that he has it online, that could be the item that he needed in order to really shred through the protections from Insignum and help get better damage spread.
It should help his damage some, for sure. Just, is it going to be enough up against Insignum? They've got so many levels on him as well. It's not going to be an easy task as they move back towards the Phoenix defense now, Taco. On the left-hand side, it's Exordium trying to defend. They only have 3 members here as Death Panner takes quite a bit of poke early on. Earth and Fury comes out, and Kha'Zix is getting evaporated. Falls to 0, who hits him with the dazzling offensive. Angry Day up into the air to try and send some return fire, and finds the Banish to create some space, but they chase him down the back end. Lasper gets the kill.
Insignium are just dismantling Exordium underneath their own Phoenixes. Aegis isn't even going to be able to save Gen 6 this time around, as he'll die right before making it back into the fountain range. Alka, the only member alive so far from Exordium, as the left-hand Phoenix should end up falling here pretty soon. And
Finish the boots!
Well, Death Banner's committed
Finish
to that left-hand Phoenix.
Nah. He had a chance, Taco. Just finish him off real quick. He could have had him then.
I don't think he had the gold.
That's a fair point.
I honestly
might not have
don't
had any
think
money.
he had any gold left after buying the stone-cutting sword.
That's
Like,
fair.
that was his all-in commitment with that stone-cutting.
Either way, the game does end up going the way up in Signum. A very strong performance from the current number 2 over there in the European SML, and a team whose track record says they might even be able to do a little bit better. And a little bit more work to do, I would say, for Exordium. Got to go back to the drawing board. That one didn't quite work.
I don't even think it's really even a flaw with the players themselves. That draft was just abysmal. I'm not really sure how it was meant to go any other direction for this team when you draft solely damage with very little crowd control into a composition that Insignum had all of those factors. They had control, they had damage, they had AoE spread. It just felt like the main enemy there for these guys was definitely just their own composition.
I agree. That really did limit them here in this composition. But what about you all out there in Mixer chat? Who do you think was the MVP on the side of Insignum? And let us know. And we'll certainly get that put up there for you. Make sure you vote while you still got the opportunity. But Insignum can feel pretty good about that one. I always say the mark of a good team is closing out those games even when you have that large of a lead. And sometimes, especially here in the minor league, when teams get those big leads, they don't always close them out right away. This time, though, they were able to just make sure they just went all the way on through very clean and took that game.
Yeah, we didn't really get to see a whole lot from Insignum's duo lane that time around, but there just wasn't any action taking place there, to be honest. It was all mostly just Lazarus, Death Panner, and Zero, and I think that all 3 of them did a great job at making sure to keep everything under control up until they could get out of those laning phases and head straight for the team fights.
All right, well, let's move into the next set here of the day. Going to be Sacred Speed Buff going up against the Poppies. Sacred Speed Buff, I believe, having a bit of a different look here as well today, so we'll see if they can make that one work for them up against the Poppies. Both these two teams down there in that clump, the 4-car pile-up, as I called it earlier on today, to try and find their way through to that top 3 position. That's what you're really chasing. You want to be right there behind Insignum. These two teams both have a good claim to it, so winning here could help.
And the Poppies, I mean, this has been their territory for who knows how long at this stage. And I do still feel like their scoreline in the standings, it don't necessarily reflect how well this team has actually performed throughout this fall split. And the same could probably be said for Sacred Speed Buff. We've seen some hiccups here and there for both teams, but now is a chance for both of them to try and wind up with a victory to move on up for that 3rd place position.
Now Kwang coming through, first pick for Sacred Speed Buff. Why not? We've seen this pick certainly do some good things in the jungle if that's where they want to place it. The likes of Athena, though, still floating around out there. Serket as well. A lot of strong picks as Agni comes through for the Poppies.
And a first pick AO as well for Sacred Speed Buff. A rather risky selection early on, but now the Poppies are going to have a chance to respond with the Morrigan, so they could possibly even have an AO of their own.
Sure.
Got to keep that execution in mind if you're a fan of Sacred Speed Buff, or at least one of their teammates, and the Amaterasu response is definitely the right way to be headed, I feel. Dazzling Offense going to be crucial for controlling this Morgan Agni.
Absolutely. It's so difficult. We saw it on that Pyromancer steal just in the last set, right? It's so unpeelable, so hard to control. Once she's up in it, you just kind of have to get out of her way. So very strong tool now for Sacred Speed Buff. Plus the Apollo. We don't see as much of him. We saw him a little bit in response to Chernobyl to give some rotational ability out of the dual lane, but Sacred Speed Buff picking this one up on their own.
And Chernobyl probably one of Apollo's better matchups right now. Currently, he's in a little bit of an awkward position in the meta. He doesn't necessarily feel like he's weak by any means, but it just seems like at times gods like Rom, Jingwei can normally just fare a little bit better. I'm curious to see how Sacred Speed will choose to utilize his Apollo, though, and if they're going to lean more towards a heavy objective burning composition.
Sure.
I think that with the addition of Amaterasu and Apollo, you already have great objective damage, but AO as well is going to be able to contribute pretty heavily there.
I think so, without a doubt. I wonder if we're going to see a Silver Branch on this Apollo. He's one of those ones with Audacity who can kind of make it into that overcapped territory and get some value. We'll certainly see as Serket comes through for the Pop. He's going to pair that with Hercules. Surprising, we don't see Hercules as much anymore. Good old-fashioned lane bullies in the land of Guardians and Mages over there. Sometimes these just bruiser warriors get overlooked a bit.
A little bit here, but we get a chance now to see how Sacred Speed are going to choose to respond to this Hercules. And I like it because not only do you get CC immunity for a solo lane gob, which is really important up against the AO, but also Driving Strike going to be a great way to interrupt the Bologna clear if she opts for the Bludgeon or tries to level up that Bludgeon. There's also the Earthbreaker too to factor in. And I like the control that a Hercules is going to be able to provide, I think, against Sacred Speed Buff's composition because... it's kind of similar to what we saw from Exordium in the last match, where it is concerning to see just how little crowd control Sacred Speed Buff actually have going for them.
We'll see if they can make it work, even if they might be a little bit light on it. Soul and Bologna gonna pair it off for Sacred Speed Buff. Geb coming in, a very nice last pick for the Poppies to make sure they're able to stay comfortable over in that dual lane matchup. But I wanted to ask you, the Bologna Hercules in particular, Bologna very comfortably, very certainly going to be building Berserkers. Hercules is tough in this matchup. Again, he stand up to the sustain from Scourge Berserkers.
Scourge Berserkers is interesting because if Julio stays within range of being attacked consistently by the Scourge and the Berserkers, then I think we start to see the Hercules struggle just a little bit here, but I do think that Julio is mostly going to be aiming towards just clearing out the waves initially. After he hits level 3, 4 is around the period where we'll probably start to see a little bit more aggression towards the Bologna specifically.
Julio maybe not wanting to take these early trades, especially now with these cleave auto attacks coming through from the Bologna and then Bludgeon stance. A nice easy clear. She'll be there to share the blue buff experience, but hold that thought. Warchi very low in mid. Now has 2 abilities online. Flippo low, dash, taken, but he couldn't find the auto. Flippo with the jukes. Are you kidding me? Almost finds the return kill too.
Warchi used to be a Hunter main.
Feels bad.
Where are the in-hands at, Warchi? Nah, Warchi's probably kicking himself right now for not being able to get that turnaround. Flippo, though, counting his lucky stars for not coming up short there and all the way. I thought that the archers were going to give him that last little tick of damage to bring him down.
But those were essentially perfect jukes from Flippo. They were exactly in the direction that you would not expect him to go. They were perfectly timed to when the next auto attack is going to be coming out. So some credit there to Flippo. Certainly Warchi threw his auto attacks where Flippo should have been going. Unfortunately, that's just not where he was, and the kill ends up getting dropped.
Also, take note of this Morgan, actually, because it looks like the Morgan is the jungler, perhaps?
Take a look at it. I guess it's the Hunter from... They don't have any Hunter on this team, like a traditional one, so they have the Morgan all the way over here in the dual lane playing Hunter for them, and Worst Turtle doing the jungling.
It took a second for that to click.
Very curious, yeah.
Worst Turtle, though, in a little bit of trouble here. Marcus trying to play aggressive, but going to end up coming up short thanks to the ambush out of the Serket, making sure to keep Worst Turtle safe and sound. And Morgan Hunter, I think we saw it toyed around a decent bit right around the initial launch of Season 5, and Hunter's Blessing being considered a really strong clearing item for her.
Right.
But we see Chekio with the Mage's Blessing instead. No Hunter's Blessing, as it doesn't give her the same effects as it used to. And more importantly, though, Chekio kind of... I think he might be able to provide a little bit more to this team environment than what a physical Hunter would, just looking at Sacred Speed Buff's draft.
There's a chance here, right, that there could be some nice burst damage into the likes of Marcus, Flippo, and Streak Up, and it could be strong. And he could always turn into the Apollo were they to need a physical Hunter on their side. So it's not as if they'll be permanently without one. But definitely curious from the Poppies, this reliance on magic damage. We'll see if we see an adjustment from Sacred Speed Buff in terms of build paths about how they want to deal with it.
Magical damage is typically considered to be a little bit harder to itemize against because a lot of magical damage items, sure, they'll mitigate some of the damage that is applied, but it can't prevent all of it. And I think between Chekio and Warchi, not only do you have the threat of this invis form from Chekio for the setup into Agni bomb stuns, or even just the raw bomb damage, but Chekio could also choose to just turn into an Agni as well. And can you imagine having 6 bombs raining down at once?
That would definitely be something I would not want to deal with, Taco. Not with this kind of composition. So you don't want what that would be 6 total bombs coming out between Czechia and Warchi. Yeah, absolutely not something that you want to have happening. We'll see what it is that Czechia wants to transform into. As right now, Streak Up and Last Lycan, no big surprise, have the pressure here in duo lane. Amaterasu often picked a lot for the lane pressure to get you in duo. Plus Apollo, no slouch himself with Audacity.
I also really just like this because Sacred Speed Buff, their composition could very easily burn just about any objective in a minute or less.
Sure.
No doubt in my mind. But the Poppies, they have too much confirmation on objectives with their big burst damage that I think it might persuade the Hunters to not really want to all-in commit because it's just a little bit too risky for Sacred Speed Buff if they end up getting caught out, having expended all of their cooldowns onto a Gold Fury, for example, and then they realize, oh no, we didn't keep tabs on where the Poppies were actually positioned at, and winding up wiping and losing the objective in the process.
That is a place they could have some weaknesses, though, right? How well are they going to be able to burn through their structures? Morrigan is not like having a Soul or Kronos over there who has all that extra basic attack damage coming out. And the Mage's Blessing early on. That's not even the idea. I mean, there is the opportunity to transform into the Apollo, yes, but you probably want her transforming so you can win the fights rather than just to be burning down towers. So we'll see if maybe that ends up being a roadblock for them down the line.
I probably prefer to see Czechia holding on to that Changeling ultimate, in fact, up until the fights have either all but ended or are midway through the process of occurring, because I don't really see any reason for Czechia to immediately transform, knowing that Worst Turtle and Warchi are probably going to have to burn out all the relics firsthand, and then that'll be a prime opportunity for Czechia to look to strike.
Like, they don't necessarily need Czechia to be the one initiating with the Changeling ultimate, right, on this composition. I think I agree with you on that one. They've got enough tools to get that done anyway, and they're going to be very reliant on Czechia being versatile with this Changeling, I think, to sort of make up for the composition that they've drafted here so far. So patience is going to be the key word, I'll say, for the Hunter. For Poppies, just playing a mage, though.
And talking about patience, just check out Julio with that blink on the Hercules. I almost feel like he's trying to get Terra to get a little bit closer to the tower line so he can blink behind him, look for the driving strike in, and then hope to collapse with that excavate for the final blow. A nice little juke there as well from the Bologna. Gonna make sure that he won't get interrupted on his way back to his side of the lane. I also love that Marcus went for the invade too.
Yes. Try and slow down this Hercules. I'm right there agreeing with you on taking away his farm. And look at Julio is all. So we got a couple of non-traditional starts here, or at least I would think so. Julio elected for the Mage's Blessing right out of the gate, as opposed to maybe more like a Warrior's Blessing, or even going for one of these shields that's more popular nowadays. He wants more, I suppose, from the MP5 and that ability damage that comes out. Is, yeah, Terrorum over here is chunking.
Even forcing out the ultimate. Julio just trying to get the lane cleared as
there's no
well as he possibly can. Doesn't have any Earthbreaker. I think the Eagles rally would have been enough there for the commit.
I'd have done it.
Not sure that the Bologna fully realized just how low Julio was by the end of that Scourge. And he stepped back after throwing out the Scourge, so he didn't have the range, I feel, to get the stun off onto Julio. Plus, Driving Strike might have still been available for Julio also.
I imagine so. I think if you had confidence in landing the Scourge, maybe, you could go for that follow-up. The stun's there. There's no beads or anything like that for Julio. He has Blink as his relic. But you certainly don't die if you don't jump in there from Terror, right? So, I mean, this is a timeline he's certainly okay with being in. One where he's A-okay and continue boxing up against Julio. Might have a little bit more trouble now, though, as he starts working on that breastplate. Up until now, he had no protections to speak of. Now he'll be a lot bulkier in that matchup.
But up until now, he also didn't have boots, and with the boots online, it might make things a little bit of a harder punch here for Julio to handle. The bludgeon was already dealing a significant chunk of damage, and because of that, that's why we see Marcus already gearing up to try and provide some backup for Terra on this next blue buff invade.
Marcus and Terra are here, but so is Draco Marino to try and provide some much-needed help, as blue buff is indeed secured by Julio. Last Lycan has also made the rotation over, following with the Geb, and they're going to strip away those Harpies from the Chaos side of the map. It's a small win, since they weren't able to find any kills or buffs.
It's just rough stuff as well for Worst Turtle because both of his side lanes are getting pressured out pretty heavily here, and I am waiting for this to start impacting his jungle farm because it's only a matter of time before Sacred Speed Buff stop just looking only at the blue buff and start looking towards the other parts of the map, such as red and purple from the poppies. I don't really see Chekio being able to provide a whole lot to preventing those buffs from falling should Sacred Speed Buff decide to commit to them.
That's one more area where they could go. And Marcus, I expect him to start forcing the issue, like you said, relatively soon on this Ao Kuang. Maybe it takes a little while for him to really sort of hit that stride, but he'll certainly be there momentarily. So why not try and put some questions towards Chekio and Draco Marino, especially if this Geb is going to continue rotating as freely as we've seen. That pathway could be open up for him over there, and Chekio not going to be able to contest quite the same as maybe a Hunter. As Marcus gets away from the bombs, no beads expended, he's A-okay.
It's mostly because of the double warrior comp from Sacred Speed Buff that I want to see them playing more aggressive. Yes. They've already been being really aggressive in their laning phases with the direct matchups, but I want to see the team start grouping up and looking for those aggressive pressure points because Sacred Speed Buff obviously have a map advantage in the laning phases so far. Julio and the rest of the poppies, I don't think have really had much of a response. Just look at the chunk of damage from the bludgeon alone onto Terror, and Julio just has to walk away, accepting the fact that if he moves up any further, Marcus is just going to execute him.
Marcus absolutely does have a chance to get it done. Driving Strike allows him to reposition, so Marcus won't find any more. But Terra, I'm a bit gun-shy to take the basic attack trade when they were in lane without the minions or anything around, even with the Berserkers, giving a lot of respect over to Julio on this Hercules and to the mitigate wounds in particular, as a big rotation over from Poppies will secure the blue. I don't know, Taco, if Poppy's going to keep rotating that heavily, maybe they should be looking for more red buff invades on the side as fake with the speed buff on the Chaos side to try and capitalize on that.
Nice job by Marcus to avoid the bomb stun from Warchi, and this is the red buff invade they were waiting for, except there's no red buff around. The Warchi going to be forced to dash back to tower, though, eating the full burst of that Stellar Burst. And with Draco Marino nearby, doubt that anybody from Sacred Speed Buff is going to be all that interested in looking to dive here. As Streak Up just continues to run around the corners. Poppies are getting away with playing super passive and safe.
So far, they have been able to play back pretty far. And at a certain point, they're going to be at a point in the game where they have two very, very strong mages and a Cirquette all on their team with a Geb to protect them. And they're going to be very difficult to deal with as Streak Up puts the hurting onto Chekio there in the dual lane.
See, but it's moments like that where I wish Streak Up would just play all in aggressive. Chekio's not going to be able to do that much to you from the Morgan standpoint, but I guess Streak Up just concerned that maybe Chekio decides to utilize that Changeling transformation into the Circuit, and then that would be the damage needed to bring down this Apollo. Farm is important early on, but I just can't help but think that the Poppy should be missing out on a lot more of it than what Sacred Speed have been able to wrangle away from them.
They have not taken any, really, that I can think of. Maybe like 1 or 2 blue buffs. But 11 minutes in and still no kills on the board. Poppies have been able to kind of force back Sacred Speed Buff here so far. But I don't know if I would say either one of these teams really have a huge claim to playing this early game tremendously aggressive. The Double Warriors certainly does say that for Sacred Speed Buff, but they also will not vanish in the mid to late game by any means.
Poppies knew that the rest of Sacred Speed Buff was coming. It's that ward on the choke point. Sacred Speed Buff, the past 3 or 4 times that they looked for that same blue buff invade, have walked over this choke point ward that Terem and Julio are on right now. So if they start monitoring that a little bit better, then maybe we see a kill confirmation, but this could be first blood. In fact, it will be first blood from Marcus, as the burst damage out of the Dragon Call is just too much to handle.
Chekio going to take the man fight up against Streak Up as well, but will fall. Streak Up finally going 1v1 up against the Morgan and getting the better of her. Looks like Changeling came out too, just was not enough to keep him alive. They find the kill on the opposite side of the map onto Julio as well, and all of a sudden, the map starts to explode with action.
A nice 2 kills to start as well for Sacred Speed Buff because they came from such opposite sides of the map. It didn't really leave Worst Turtle with much direction of which way to head to help out, because if he goes to solo, well, Julio's already dead, and if he arrives after the fact, then he probably just ends up getting picked off also. And there's no chance of him to make it over to the dual lane in time to try and bail out Chekio, because that boxing trade just took place in the middle of the lane. There was no real escape for the Morrigan there.
But this has got to start to embolden Sacred speed buff, I would say here, Taco. Now we got to start seeing a little bit more from them. They've now proven that when they take those fights, they're going to be the ones that are favored on them. They're just a little bit more geared to have these early fights with the Amaterasu and the Bellona, even the Ao Kuang, I would say so, than the Poppies. And Poppies are going to be scarier the later they allow this to go. So no real reason to not go ahead and take these opportunities when they're there. Try and force them to engage around Gold Fury, control the vision around that space and get them to commit in. Try and force some fights.
It should only be a matter of time until we see the first Gold Fury attempt or pool from Sacred Speed Buff. Since they've won out on their side lanes, looking to group to pressure the objective early on when they have such a strong shred comp for these objectives, I think could
Soul Apollo, man.
only benefit in the long run. They might even get a chance to kill the Gold Fury before anybody from the Poppies even realizes it's happening.
That's a lot of Sun on one team, though, isn't it? Soul and Apollo. Soul, who's like, what, the literal avatar of the sun or something like that, and then Apollo, like the sun god. That's right.
It's pretty bright.
Gotta wear shades as Draco Marino drops the Cataclysm, but still gets stunned, apparently mistimed. Stun hits 3 in the middle lane, though, coming out from Warchi, but no real follow-up as Last Lycan has to dash back to reposition. Boulder there to dunk him down, and Worst Turtle gets him with the last breath.
There's the response on the Poppies that we've been waiting all game long for, Finch. Speaking of, now Marcus won't even get a chance to try and run away because Worst Turtle going to ambush right on top of him. I thought that was going to be a pickoff onto Chekio, but a great use of that transformation, just going to bail Chekio right on out of there.
This is almost exactly the opposite of the type of fight I was describing, though, isn't it? A commitment onto Draco Marino underneath the Tier 1 tower, onto the Geb, one of the targets that you probably wouldn't want to go with since you've allowed them to farm this long into the game. And they just end up committing too much position-wise. A great stun comes out from Warchi and the 3 members, and they capitalize perfectly.
I swear, it's always the Geb, too. People always just want to try and kill the Geb, no matter how tanky they are, and then you wind up with the turnaround factor.
And I think you can if it's earlier than this, but they've put no pressure on him up till now, right? They've let him just build up plenty of defenses. It's going to be much tougher now than it would have been earlier on. I just don't know. That wasn't the fight they were looking for.
Draco's just been doing whatever he wants on the map. I mean, he hasn't exactly been pressuring out anybody by any means. It's just the fact that he hasn't been punished for being Geb and roaming so freely is what astounds me, because I definitely think that Sacred Speed have dropped the ball there on an opportunity. And now, after having lost 2 of their members, things are all but even yet again between Sacred Speed and the Poppies. Hardly any gold separates these 2 teams at all. I wouldn't even really call it much of an advantage when it's only 500 up.
Yeah, very nice fight back from the Poppies there in the middle lane to sort of capitalize on Sacred Speed buff aggressing into the Tier 1 tower.
Nice shockwave steal, too, from Jacarino on those Oracles to make sure that the Poppies get the vision now. That vision, all too important against this draft from Sacred Speed buff. I can't stress it enough just how quickly an AO, Soul, and Apollo can end up shredding that objective.
Blink Cataclysm from Draco will find Marcus, who does not have beads to get him out of this one. Very, very low, but gets away from Supernova and is able to dash away from the Rain Fire, but not from Last Breath. But it will be 1-for-1 as Warchi falls as well to the hands of Flippo.
Love that turn from Last Lycan, too, in the Dazzling Offense. Didn't want to get credit for the last hit onto Warchi. Wanted to make sure that either Flippo or Streak Up received that bounty instead.
This is it.
And one more time, everybody for Sacred Speed have grouped up around this corner. I don't think the Poppies are aware, but they will see this instantaneous pull of the Gold Fury.
That was the right idea, but unfortunately the vision there would have ruined it either way. Gold Fury was a toss-up, and it goes the way of Sacred Speed buff, even with the boulder coming out from Julio. Now time for the disengage from Sacred Speed buff. That was the burn and the Gold Fury Siege we were talking about. Maybe a little less clean and a little later than we were looking for, but it certainly goes the way of Sacred Speed buff to get them back on top in terms of gold.
And both sides suffered a casualty. It's just that Sacred Speed buff didn't really need Marcus to be alive in order to confirm that Gold Fury. Flippo and Streak Up's damage alone is more than enough, and we saw, I think that was, what, 20 seconds? 20 seconds or less?
If even. It was very quick that they burned that Gold Fury. Very, very quick. So Pyromancer going to be the response on the right-hand side here from the Poppies. Julio is the target from Sacred Speed buff, so the rest of the team can go for the objective, and Julio appears to be under no duress. So a nice trade that Poppers are able to make out to at least grab something, but not going to quite even out a Gold Fury as Lycan commits the dazzling offensive on Draco Marino. He's in execute threshold and will be swallowed up by the SS Quanger coming out in Marcus's favor. Where will he come back down? It's on to Julio on the right-hand side, who can shrug it off.
There's no escape for that poor Geb, and Draco Marino was trying to rely on the rollout for the CC immunity, but couldn't get it off in time. Marcus was just waiting for that execute threshold, and he's about to find it one more time onto Julio if he's not careful, but look at that heal off of the mitigate wounds.
It's very nice, but Terrorum should continue this. I'm disappointed. Instead, they will give up on the chase. Julio was so low, and you just saw the heal. I don't know.
For as healthy as the 3 members from Sacred Speed Buff were, I'm with you, Finch. That should have been a commit from Sacred Speed Buff. There's no real reason not to. Julio's all by himself, but maybe because Sacred Speed Buff don't have this top-down field of view,
yes,
they weren't aware that there was no one from Poppies anywhere near the vicinity. Probably assumed that, hey, we're at his T2 tower. Someone should be responding, right?
And that's a good point. They did have a ward, or not a sentry ward rather, down by those XP camps as Chekio very nearly dives. Streak Up actually using the ultimate to make sure he gets on out of there. Not able to complete the dive was Chekio, but does force Streak Up back.
This is another one of those examples, though, of where I wish that players would just go for the all-in commit.
Yeah.
As soon as you see that you don't have to worry about the mez, hold that thought, though. Marcus actually in a spot of trouble here, trying to come in onto Chekio, but going to get turned around instead. Worst Turtle saving the life of his Hunter.
It was much needed, and certainly Chekio will appreciate the backup there, as Marcus very nearly turned and burned him. Aegis was forced out in the back end from Chekio of that to keep him alive. But that does mean now that Chekio won't really be able to capitalize on forcing Streak Up back with the ultimate, because now he has to back as well. Won't be getting much farm without him. Flippo now in a bit of duress, though, but Disapparate, very, very good ability. But Julio is waiting for him. Driving Strike. Supernova comes out to keep him alive, and Flippo should be A-okay now.
Flippo is actually still looking to play aggressive into Julio. Excavate not going to deal much damage thanks to a well-timed Aegis, but Worst Turtle is making great use of the distraction. Not only did he take down the red buff, but just stole away back harpies from Marcus as well. So Marcus is going to come back to very limited farm, and it's not even needed because Flippo can't stay alive. Beautiful blink in from Draco Marino to give credit on the last hit to Chekio.
Ends up coming in, locking down that kill in the middle lane. Now, with a little bit of free time, the Poppies can go where they'd like to. But these exchanges have been a bit all over the place, haven't they? Remember, it started with Chekio with the transformation to Streak Up, but not really committing onto the dive there. So Streak Up backs, Chekio and Worst Turtle take down Marcus in the jungle, and then there's some trouble for Flippo in the middle lane. He gets forced out by Julio and ends up falling too. So it's been a bit all over the place, a little bit sloppy here, but certainly still close between these two teams. It's anyone's game as Lycan has to ult to get away, and good patience from Worst Turtle.
Ambush going to end up falling up short there for Worst Turtle. Was expecting Lycan to be a little bit further up. As time goes on, though, Finch, things are starting to favor the Poppies more and more, and it's becoming very evident in a lot of these engagements that Sacred Speed Buff are having a very difficult time finding the answers to them.
But to be fair, both of the teams, I mean, no one has a significant advantage. I don't see the clear like strategy or win condition from either one of these teams. It felt like they picked squads that they liked, and they'll see how it goes towards the end of the game, just whoever ends up winning. Sacred Speed Buff have the burst to take down some objectives, but I haven't really seen them commit to that just yet. They've only gotten one Gold Fury in these 22 minutes. Perhaps when the next one spawns, that will be the plan. They're only 10 seconds away, and they do have Marcus nearby trying to control some space, and it might come to fruition there.
It's because even though there isn't much separating these two teams for experience or gold, the main difference is just the initiations around these team fights. Sacred Speed Buff now looking to take this Gold Fury one more time, but this time the Poppies are here to respond.
And they finally end up leashing it. Some bombs come out from Warchi over the top. Draco Marino is low, and Lycan, recognizing it, is going to drop down the dazzling offensive and find the kill there, but Warchi blows up Marcus on the back end to respond. Now it's Terram in trouble. Eagles rally, not going to get him out, but Warchi falls in trade 2 for 2 so far, and it's Streak Up who's low.
Julio looking for the driving strike's going to find 2, and one of them's going to be a kill onto Streak Up. Last Lycan now trying to run away, but there is no escape from this Morgan. That gives Worst Turtle the confidence to jump right back in there. One more driving strike for the killing spree. Julio ringing in the D side, and this is a Gold Fury all for the Poppies.
But this is kind of what I was talking about, Taco, is the Poppies do win a very big fight on the back end, 2 for 5. And a nice D side they grab from his Gold Fury. Sacred Speed Buff do the thing that I think they should do, right? They start the fight around the objective, but they don't really unleash it very clean. They do get away from Warchi's bombs, so the Gold Fury's not outright stolen for them. But they didn't go for picks, they didn't go for vision control ahead of time. They didn't really do anything to earn that Gold Fury. They just kind of threw it up in the air.
Sacred Speed Buff pulled it down to around 30% and
Very
then
low.
decided to leash it because of the threat from the Poppies stealing. And I just don't think that they really had much of an opening. There were a couple of response picks, and I liked it that Sacred Speed Buff were able to find any kills at all in the mix of all that craziness. It's just that the Poppies have so much more control over Sacred Speed Buff that after Lycan uses the Dazzling Offense, what more is there really to try and help protect the members? Eagles rally, but that's still only temporary protections being provided as well, and the stun duration is not nearly long enough for Sacred Speed Buff to truly capitalize off of it in time.
That is a good point, though. There aren't very good control tools available for Sacred Speed Buff. So once those big kind of clumped up team fights come out, you know, the Cataclysm, the stuns from Warchi's Agni Bombs are hitting everyone. Even Julio had a 2-man driving strike in that fight, right? The control tools for Poppy are much better, and that's why we see the fights going so handily in their favor.
That's another point as well, is the fact that Sacred Speed Buff expended nearly everything onto a level 16 Geb.
Again.
And they killed him, sure, but at what cost is it really worth you using 3, 4, 5 ultimates in some cases to bring down Jacob Marino when he's the Geb? He wants you to target him.
And now it's favoring the Poppies just by a bit, a little under 3,000 gold. Lycan dashing in to try and take away the Mad Guy's cloak from Worst Turtle. He will do that, but now he has no dash. Now he has no life. He ends up falling to Julio. Worst Turtle will catch out Terum in the middle of the bludgeon with the last breath. Terum does end up surviving. Marcus finds Warchi to try and turn things back around the back end, but Julio brings down the boulder onto Marcus and eradicates the Alquan.
Terum getting a little bit lucky there. Driving strike still on cooldown for Julio. And Chekio as well. Just barely escaping by the skin of his teeth. That excavate, not enough to find him in the end. Excuse me, that wasn't the excavate. It was Marcus trying to hunt him down, and then he got interrupted by the excavate from Julio. Still, the Poppies, they not only find the pick from the fight that they started, but they also finished it.
It's another curious one, though, right? Where Lycan dashes in to sort of get things going. He does pop the Mad Guy's cloak from Worst Turtle very early on in that fight, yes, but then he's sort of stuck without the dash in between 3. And they collapse on him around the Tier 1 tower. They find a very neat kill there. They do end up having to commit a little bit too much, and Warchi dies from that. Marcus able to find him on the back end, but they punish that one respectively as well. Sacred Speed Buff have got to be a little bit more mindful about when they take their engagements. I like that they're taking more of them, but I don't know if they're taking them in the right spots.
I'd actually rather see Sacred Speed Buff stop trying to take engagements and just look to counteract them instead. I don't think that they're in a favorable position right now to be able to start up the aggression. They have to just be the responders at this stage because they lost their opportunity. I think their prime window of operation was during those early laning phases when they had so much obvious pressure on both sides of the map. It's just that they didn't really utilize it nearly as well as they probably could have.
And now they're staring down the barrel of a nearly 3,000 gold lead for Poppies, who are considering starting the Fire Giant. Chekio in the Invis was looking for a target, but everyone from Sacred Speed Buff cleared out. And that was all it took. Poppies give up now on starting up that Fire Giant. Instead, head back to farming the lane, but they are at least still nearby. They have the Sentry Ward on top of it, so they have control of the vision. And Sacred Speed Buff, again, have to be responsible.
Last Lycan gonna get stunned out, but the dash will be good this time around, so he won't end up falling. He is still sitting at half health, however, and that's a little bit unsettling when you see all of the Poppies charging down this mid lane looking for a hunt.
And they're right to be on the hunt for the Poppies, and a pick would very, very neatly set up a Fire Giant for them. So I think they probably could start it up even without one On the backside, Lycan one more time dashes in. They recognize it, drop down the last breath. He has to use Dazzling Offensive to reposition, but now Marcus is isolated on the right-hand side as well. He dashes out. Both very, very low, and Poppy's still very healthy.
Spread out team fights is the last thing that Sacred Speedbuff should be trying to go for, however. Both of these warriors need to work together because they are all the control that this comp has to offer. And the Poppies know it, which is why they wanted to pressure out Sacred Speedbuff, because check what's about to respawn here, Finch. It's the Gold Fury, and with 3 members having just backed for Sacred Speedbuff, I don't know that they're going to make it back here in time to stop this Gold Fury from going down.
The Gold Fury is going to go down to the Poppies, or at the very least, they're going to start it. Lycan and Streak Up are nearby rather quickly, or at the very least, Lycan and Streak Up stopped at the red buff. Lycan now with a chance to legitimately contest. Poppies, though, do secure the Gold Fury in the end. Stun lands onto Lycan, but that was the end of that CC chain. It's Lycan who's considering aggressing further, but Poppies get away with their objective.
Was that was Sprint from Lycan already popped.
He wanted more there.
Who was he going to chase?
I don't know.
Well, Lycan ends up dropping out on the Heavenly there for his team, so now Sacred Speedbuff, if they want to look to run down the Poppies, they're just going to have to cut them off the good old-fashioned way. And here we see Streak Up kind of just roaming around the map. Laning phases have been gone for a while now, and it's been all about the team fights lately, but it hasn't really felt like much of a team fight for Sacred Speedbuff. Even in that last little engagement prior to the Poppy sieging the Gold Fury, Lycan kind of caused his team to be separated, which then allowed the Poppies to aggress onto 2 different segments. And since the Poppies have Jacob Marino and Julio, they can afford to split apart their team fights a little bit. Sacred Speedbuff, though, do not have that leisure.
I agree with you as Pyromancer gets dropped by Sacred Speedbuff. If Lycan goes out of position and pulls in attention, then Marcus does what I think was the right thing, and he tries to come in on the backside of the fight. The problem is the Poppies just collapsed onto Marcus. It was very clean, their target switching back over to this Ao Kuang to not allow him to wreak havoc on the back line. And now it's Poppies who want the Pyromancer, but Sacred Speedbuff are right here in their faces. Lycan is trying to be the front line, controlled by the driving strike. Pyromancer has been dropped, and they use Dazzling Offensive onto the Draco Marino one more time. He Geb shields himself. Eagles Rally hits 1 in the back line, but Terrorim is not tanky enough, gets executed by Chekio.
Chekio gonna borrow that AO for a second here, as now Marcus is on the run. Worst Turtle hasn't guessed which direction he went, though, in the good old-fashioned juke around, heading it down deeper into Poppy's territory. He's gonna be able to bail out Marcus in the end here. But with the Pyromancer still on the board for the taking, looks like that's gonna be the Poppy's next point of contention.
Last Lycan goes in, but it's Marcus who eventually gets hunted down by Chekio on the back end of the fight. Pyromancer very, very low and will be confirmed by Poppies, but it's Lycan who's in trouble. The movement speed is enough. Chekio finds Lycan and finds 3 kills for 0. Poppies now able to grab the Fire Giant as well. No real way for Sacred Speedbuff to get in here.
Chekio might have been soloed at the start of this match, but he is making up for it and some by now, finding Marcus, finding less Lycan. It seems like there's almost no escape from this Morgan, and a large part of that's credited to that Boomba's mass pickup, just giving so much additional movement speed with that 10% in the Invis form. He is zooming around the back line, and Sacred Speedbuff just don't know which way to look.
They've not known the way to look for a while, it's felt like, here in this game, as the Poppies have done a good job, I think, sort of slowing things down in the early game, limiting the options there for Sacred Speedbuff and trying to force them to be the ones to make the decisions on where to engage. And once we started, the laning phase started breaking down, they started grouping up, we got to the mid to the late game, then Poppies have been able to out-team fight Sacred Speedbuff with their control tools, with these big mages that can control a little bit more space than Sacred Speedbuff can. It's netted them a Fire Giant and the Tier 1 tower in right, and they have plenty of time to go find more.
Worst Turtle and Jacob Marino still looking to keep pushing. They've got Warchi to assist them, and 3 archers are on the way. This T2 tower should end up falling, and it doesn't seem like Sacred Speedbuff are interested in contesting it. There's only 4 of them, grouped up on this right-hand Phoenix. I doubt the Poppies are going to keep pushing for the Phoenix itself. I think that they just wanted to open up the map a little bit further and make it so that if Sacred Speedbuff do try to contest the Fire Giant, they won't be able to escape the T2 tower in solo or mid lane. Instead, they'll just have to take their chances running back through their jungle.
The Mid-tier 2 tower is certainly down. Julio blinks in, looking for a pull. Lycan dashes in, but it's Terrorim who gets controlled by the driving strike. Eagles rally in place for the stun, and is trying to not spread the last breath poison to everyone else, but he certainly is going to fall. Worst Turtle gets the first kill. Two-man stun comes out from Warchi into the knockup. Chekio looking for the execute, but can't get in range. Poppies are low, but they have found the first kill.
Those shields, though, from Draco Marino going to make sure that Chekio's in no danger at all, pretty much. And Poppies, well, they find the pick onto Terra, but they're not going to be able to do much more after that. Instead, all 5 members are just going to choose to back to base, which I think is the right call here, Finch. And not only that, they're going to have a chance to spend up all that gold that they just acquired from sieging the T2 towers in mid and solo, and finishing off their last couple of items in their builds means that quick and easy fire giants probably going to be what happens next.
But it is at least a good defense from Sacred Speed Buff, I would say, to not lose the mid Phoenix there, even though they lost Terram early on. Julio doing a great job with the driving strike to sort of force that Bellona out of position after that initial blink engage. But at this point, Sacred Speed Buff, we know that they don't have the tools control-wise to try and match Poppies in the 5v5. So they've got to be a bit more pick-oriented. Who are you looking to in the Sacred Speed Buff roster then to try and be the one that slows down Poppies?
It's got to be Marcus. But Marcus is having such a difficult time pinpointing any single member from the Poppies, because the second that Marcus is spotted, everyone from the Poppies immediately turns their attention towards protecting the member being targeted out by this AO. And so when that takes place, then it's up to Flippo and StreakUp to aggress onto the Poppies front line and start shredding away at Draco Marino and Julio. Both of them have pretty strong builds for taking down these tanks. At least that's what they aim to opt for here. And that's pretty much the only direction that Sacred Speed Buff really have to go for. Otherwise, Marcus is going to end up just getting bursted into oblivion each time without any sort of response. It's all about juggling the attention from the Poppies here for Sacred Speed Buff.
That's going to be the way they got to do it. They have to find that balancing act, because so far, the biggest contribution Marcus has made is giving Chekio a nice target to turn into with that Changeling ultimate and look for some executes and burst damage of his own. A great performance out of this Morrigan so far from Chekio in the dual lane. And like you said, he took that early spill to StreakUp, but aside from that, if you ignore that, he's 5-0-10. A very, very excellent game he's been able to have for himself, and you don't even expect the Morrigan to win the 1v1 necessarily to the Apollo early on, so he's done everything you can ask him.
Chekio was also looking for his revenge adamantly against StreakUp, non-stop running after this Apollo, and StreakUp just kept getting out every single time, 10% or less, until eventually the laning phase just didn't really matter anymore because it was all about the team fights afterwards, and Poppies have been making great use of their time, I would say. And now the Pyromancer going to be their next objective to remove. And I mostly just like that the Poppies, despite not even needing the Gold Fury or anything like that, they're just looking for everything they can to remove off the map to prevent Sacred Speed Buff from coming back into this one. That's
what Poppies have done. They farmed the map and limited the options for Sacred Speed Buff. Fire Giant claimed now for the Poppies, and really the world is their oyster. Left, mid, right Phoenix, all exposed. They can go grab whichever one they would like to at this point. And so far as Poppies have done it by playing well as a unit around Draco Marino, who's been a target for Sacred Speed Buff in almost every fight so far. They're doing a good job collapsing on that as a result. I would not be surprised if we see something similar here again.
And despite the double shells not giving any protections from the AO execute, I still really like that the Poppies opted for those relics, just because it's clear that they are so team focused here.
If they come out before, they can be helpful as well. As StreakUp is way in the backside of this team fight. It's Lycan who's been controlled. Driving strike pulls him back in. A big Eagles rally comes out with Supernova to follow up. Worst Turtle, though, is the only one low. Warchi finds a nice stun of his own to force back Sacred Speed Buff on the back end. And now it's Julio tanking up the Phoenix for days and forcing Sacred Speed Buff back.
Everybody is so low from Sacred Speed Buff, but they're just barely managing to hang in there. Same can't be said, though, for the right side Phoenix. The Poppies will eventually breach Sacred Speed Buff's defenses and take down that right side Firebird. And they're still looking for more. Although some backs will take place here because Poppies want to go grab the creep waves, I think, for the left-hand side.
Yeah, looks like it, huh? A little bit surprising on the back end of that, though. They didn't find any kills or anything like that. They kind of just forced Sacred Speed buff back to Fountain. And while that was enough time to get Phoenix, I suppose not enough time for much else. So they'll take their time. They've got another 2 minutes and 20 seconds with that Fire Giant. Spend a little bit more gold. They are fully 6 slotted here at this point. Relics fully upgraded as well. Even grabbing some potions. Look at Worst Turtle with a 3K pot ready to go. So they're going to be bringing in the hurt for onto Sacred Speed buff.
That is dangerous for a Sacred Speed buff to try and handle.
He popped him.
Circuit's already giving enough woes to Marcus, now having the 3K pot and the 500 red pot. That's going to be a lot of damage off of the poison procs plus the last breath that already deals enough true damage anyway. It'll be interesting to see how Sacred Speed buff try and survive here and keep their Phoenix alive in the process.
And some much needed structure damage as well. Remember, they don't have a Hunter on the side of Poppies, so everything extra Worst Turtle can do will certainly be helpful, as Strika won't even make it to the chariot. Draco Marino with the shockwave puts him down. Phoenix on the left-hand side gets burned out as well, as Lycan does find a 2-man stun, but it absolutely does not help Marcus on the right-hand side. He ends up falling.
With 2 members already dead here from Sacred Speed buff and 2 Phoenixes having been removed, the third is soon to follow as the Poppies now turn their attention towards this mid lane Phoenix. Laz Lycan trying to make a final stand, looking to absorb as many blows as possible, but there's just too much pressure onto this last Phoenix.
There's minions pouring in from every direction. Flippo doing his best to try and keep this Titan standing. Terrorum does find Warchi on the back end of the fight. In fact, these 2 warriors doing a good job forcing out the likes of the Poppies without Warchi and Chekio for their much-needed damage. Looks like they'll pump the brakes on the Poppies, at least for now, and have some breathing room to try and clear out these minions, Taco. But Poppies have fully broken the base of Sacred Speed buff. It feels like they can walk in as soon as they get their response.
But it's all just a temporary relief from Sacred Speed buff. It's just the Poppies allowing Sacred Speed buff some time to clear out Fireways because they had to back the base. Or I should, mostly they wanted to back to base. They'd already taken everything. They suffered a couple of casualties. Trying to end without either of their primary damage dealers is just a little bit of an unnecessary risk for the Poppies at this point. They can choose to just hard reset and then bring up all the creep waves one more time in their favor. Because even if Sacred Speed buff have the perfect defense and possibly even wipe the Poppies, let's go all the way in with this one and say hypothetically they wipe the Poppies, they still have to worry about 3 lanes of fire minions, and that alone, depending on how long the Poppies can keep up an engagement with Sacred Speed buff, might be enough to bring down the Titan.
It's not going to be easy for Sacred Speed buff. They're certainly still multiple big fight wins away from ending this game in their own favor, with all the towers and Phoenixes still up on the Chaos side of the map. Looks like Poppies are nearby the Fire Giant. They might want to wait for it. At least Draco Marino is. The rest of the team are pushing up waves. At least Julio is taking care of that on the right-hand side. Warchi respawned, so he shall be joining the team, and it looks like Fire Giant will indeed be the call. They'll grab it first and then go to push down the Titan, which is already weakened.
Pyromancer, just because why not? It's here, we'll take it. Just like everything else on the map so far for the Poppies.
But they did a good job in that last fight, I would say, from the Poppies of trying to focus out the damage dealers from Sacred Speed buff. They went in on Streak Up immediately.
Oh, that was
gross. Yeah, no chance for him to make it back out. It was the Blink Cataclysm initiation from Draco Marino that really caused problems.
You could just see the hope leaving Streak Up's eyes as he was getting right into the takeoff stage of the chariot and couldn't get out off the ground in time to avoid the knockup damage from Draco Marino. Unfortunate, but sometimes that's just the way it is.
And there's no peel in that situation to try and help Streak Up on this squad. I mean, we kind of covered it already, but I mean, what can you do? Terrorum has really just the Eagles Rally, which has been a big initiation tool for them, or at least counter-initiating so far. He's actually found some very nice stunts with it, so they can't afford to use it just to keep Streak Up. They're in a tough spot as Flippo already half HP off these bombs from Warchi.
Sometimes the Eagles Rally also kind of works against Terrorum, though, because at times, I think that he expects his team to look for some follow-up if he can 5-man stun the entirety of the Poppies, but instead, his team just uses it as a moment to run when he gets that 5-man stun off, and then you've got a Bologna severely out of position that is then quickly scooped up as a pick for the Poppies.
Well, now all 3 waves are pushed up. Well, just the mid and solo side wave. Duo is still pushed out. There won't be fire minions in just yet. But Popish being patient. Lycan is going to be the initiator on to check you on the backhand side, but Geb Shield makes that initiation irrelevant. Marcus has to jump away. Supernova does find one knock up, but only on a Chekio, who doesn't feel it that bad. In fact, Eagles rally coming out from the Morrigan as he finds some damage on the back end.
Tedem still barely clinging on to life here. Julio gonna get mezzed out. Nicely done by Streak Up to help keep his Bellona alive. So Tedem will have a chance to make it back to the fountain and heal. But now look at this Titan health already at about just about 60%.
At about 5,000, 6,000 or so as Mid Phoenix in trouble. Up into the air, comes down Streak Up, and on the backside of the fight doesn't look for the actual knock-up. The left side Phoenix might end up falling just to minions, as it looks like Pop is still being very patient, but taking down Terrorim could certainly change the complexion of things as he ends up getting removed way too far forward.
But look at how far up he was. Where was his team? They were still sitting on the mid-side Phoenix. Streak Up's going to be next. No, the beads are going to save him for now from that Earthbreaker driving strike combination, except there's just too many firemen pouring in. A couple of Agni Bombs is going to seal the deal here for the Poppies as they end up bringing down Sacred Speed Buff.
Game's over. Poppies grab it. Took a while, you know, longer perhaps than I would have thought from the Poppies, but they grabbed it in the end, able to take the victory in that game. Really, it kind of felt like it was in their control the whole time.
Hey, Poppies went for the late game team composition, so this game had to go late game also just to validate the offer. But I think ultimately I would have to agree with you, Finch. It felt like Poppies were in control from the very start. A couple of picks that went in Sacred Speed Buff's favor that initially alluded to the team maybe playing a little bit more aggressive and looking to shut down this Poppies late game composition early on. It just never really came to fruition because Sacred Speed Buff just allowed for too much farm to be happening for the Poppies. They didn't really do much to disperse that.
Well, who is your MVP from that game? I could certainly be convinced to vote for Chekio or Draco Marino on the Geb. A big impact coming out from his initiations, from those Geb shields as well. I think either one of those could certainly be fine, though.
Let's give it to the support.
Yeah.
Carries get all the love as is. Every now and then supports need a little bit of loving, too.
Well, we'll see what chat decides. We unfortunately don't get votes. Not really a democracy here, I suppose. Letting chat handle it. But either way, that's going to do it at least for that set. We still have one more coming your way. We're going to get everything set up for that one, refill those drinks while you got a moment, and get right back here.
You better turn up. You better be there when I shake. Watch me rockin' if I can't stop. If I should fall, just go ahead. Go and catch me, baby. Turn it up, turn it up, turn it up.
Welcome back, everybody. It's time for the final set of the day here in the European Minor League. Aggro alongside Anatoly. We've got Insignum versus the Poppies, and Toli, this is the big one for the Poppies. Yeah. Coming off a big win up against Sacred Speed Buff. They can find this one. They put themselves in a great spot for third.
Especially knowing that Insignum is just right at that #2 spot. Above them is Optimus Gang, and it's only 3 teams from both Europe and North America that's going to go to those round-robin placements.
It's going to be a big just set to win here if you're the Poppies, and they look like they could do it. I mean, the Poppies have steadily improved throughout this fall split. I think Warchi's become a lot more comfortable in that mid lane.
Yeah, and I think we saw a lot of those solo lane highlights as well coming out of Julio that's playing a Hercules with the Mage's Blessing. Who knows what's to come out of that solo lane?
Hey, man, Julio's been doing it for a while. He loves his tier with Mage's Blessing, so why not Hercules, right? Same sort of idea, I suppose, for him. But we'll see if Insignum want to prioritize Julio or if they're going to go towards Warchi yet again. Warchi seems to really like the Agni. That's been the pick that I've really seen from him, and teams have even started to ban it from him even early on.
It doesn't surprise me. He's one of those follow-up players, and Agni is the best suited for that. You don't have to put yourself out of position. That dash, although it could be used offensively, you want to save that for a rainy day to escape.
Sobek, though, the ban, that more targeted towards Julio, without a doubt. And this is the minor league, so they're very interested in picking and banning against each other. They really don't go for the Pro League meta. They really do dive into banning against what they think the enemy team is going to play, not what the SPL teams would play. And even things like first pick Agni for Insignum, really just looking to try and make sure that Warchi does not get that pick.
Well, without the safety of that dash, there's going to have to be a different option, maybe going for the Scylla or having to go for Chernobog mid. That's another option. Freya's available if Poppies want to take it here.
Could be Freya, but they can wait on it here. I don't think that Insignum would put Freya ADC alongside the Agni. We've seen a lot more Freya mid than Freya ADC lately.
That's true. Freya does a lot of damage, and against an Agni that struggles pre-level 5, could even find some like first blood potential or even just forcing the Agni back to base.
Jingwei there by Insignum to try and match that Chernobog. Jingwei has been steadily one of the best hunters in the game for basically all of Season 5, it's felt like.
It's all about the safety net. You can't go wrong with a passive, being able to explosive bolt your way into some of these team fights, and knockups are just the best form of CC in all of SMITE, so you just can never go wrong with a Jingwei. Not only that, being able to agility away from any counter knockups.
Exactly. Ao Kwang there for the Poppies. It seems like Johnny started a bit of a revolution in the European Minor League. When a dude plays one god so well and he's the only guy playing it, I think every jungler goes, let me try that. I wanna give that a shot, and I think that teams have found that Ao Kwang's better than a lot of people think.
They're like thinking emoji about it real quick.
I think I can pull that off.
And against Sylvanas, that's such a stationary target. During the Wrath of Terror, during his pull, you're able to throw out those dragons that are circling around you for a lot of burst damage and look for those executes.
Sure, but at the same time, Sylvanas has a lot of dots that Ao Kwang really needs to worry about. He's got a stealth that is revealed by any sort of damage, Wisps, Wrath of Terra. Both of those are really big AoE dots that it can give Ao Kwang some trouble.
That's very true. Needs to find some safety behind the Terra from time to time. Julio going to play his typical tier. We'll see the Mage's Blessing more than likely.
Signature pick there for Julio in the solo lane. Jingwei not too upset about seeing a tier on the other side. Can easily get away from that fearless chain, but Serket, on the other hand, has plenty of mobility, but can be shut down pretty heavily by Tyr, just because Tyr does enough damage that you could really give someone like with a low health pool like Serket problems.
It's very true, but the idea is probably to sit in the solo lane. Serket and Nemesis are your #1 tank killers in that solo lane. As long as that level 5 comes through last breath, should shut down the Tyr before any healing comes through.
Vamana, the selection in the solo lane here for Zero, is on her, rounds out the draft for the Poppies, so they will have a double hunter composition. Kind of to be expected when you see the Ao Kwang locked in, that you can afford to go for a double hunter comp where you're not too physical heavy in that regard. But this Vamana selection, I don't know, we've seen a little bit more of it as of late. What is behind this resurgence of Vamana?
It's just the safety net of the Umbrella Ring giving you the anti-attack speed. Now, they picked it before the On Her, but I'm pretty sure that they were expecting Chernobog to go in the mid lane either way, and you have the flexibility to clear the wave a lot faster than Tier with that Umbrella Ring, and then proxy between the Tier 1 and Tier 2. And in Season 5, being able to get those back camps every 60 seconds is what can allow you to start transitioning a little bit better than your opposition.
Certainly plenty of damage from the Vamana on the jungle camps, but does sometimes lack in the utility. Anti-attack speed certainly helpful for him. We'll see if that's where Zero is able to make his biggest impact. You mentioned that Serket is great at killing tanks. Well, she's also great at killing Ao Kwang. She has always been thought of as a counter pick to Alkwang because just like herself, Alkwang a very low health pool. In this regard, I think I really like the Lazarus selection.
It's all about the dots. You were talking about how Sylvanas is good against Alkwang. Well, Serket, as soon as you see that Alkwang, last breath. He water illusions away, gets revealed, and then you can look for follow-up with the ambush and the rest of your kit. We'll see how that plays out as some of these players hit level 5 in about 2 to 3 minutes time.
This 2v2 in the mid lane for Insignum doesn't seem particularly scary until Death Panther and Lasbra hit level 5, in which case their 2v2 becomes far, far scarier than that of the Poppies. As we check in on the left-hand side, Genetics taking a lot of damage here between Chekio and Draco Marino. Joshi going to return a little bit, but get more than he gave. The duo lane for the Poppies a little bit behind in XP. Joshi and Genetics were able to invade purple, but still the Poppies holding strong.
Genetics not too worried between his Wisps getting health potions and the health chalice. That is one resilient tree. Good luck trying to chop him down this early on, even with a lane advantage. Still trying to find the clear opportunities as Warchi and Death Panther just kind of staring each other down. These junglers are going to make their way towards the right side jungle.
Lasbra might meet up with Worst Turtle here, indeed he will. Death Bane does good damage, but not enough for Worst Turtle, though the dot from Death Panther there, still not enough to get the kill, though Worst Turtle might be forced back to base. Nice pull onto Chekio, but he still has the lead.
Going to be able to jump away from that one. Level 3 for Insignum's duo lane. Only level 2 from Poppy, so not able to get that full combo out of the Terra. She only has that stun wall and the dash. It's hard to find the Monolith crash through, so this is why you can't bully out Genetics, and by using these abilities, now you don't have anything for the next wave.
Warchi's got to use the beads, and Lasbra says, that's all I was looking for. Don't worry about it. We don't need to fight any more than that. Love the patience from Lasbra. Lasbra came into this team at the beginning of the Season 5 in the spring split. Everyone was looking at Lasbra as the dude alongside Death Panther, but Zero, Genetics, Joshi have all had their moments as well. But it's still, when you're looking at this team, you still look at Lasbra and Death Panther as the leaders, I think.
Oh, absolutely. And playing as Serket, it's either Serket or the Ratatoskr, where you have to be super fearful from what Lasbra is going to bring to the table. Always looking for those highlight plays, and those are your top 2 junglers to be able to do so, at least in Season 5 we've seen.
Worst Turtle over on the right-hand side just invaded the blue for Zero, and that's big. Vamana, a very mana-intensive character. No sense of mana sustain or real health sustain in the kit outside of the ultimate for Vamana. So invading blue and poking out Vamana is usually a very successful strategy, and usually Alkwang's the one who's worried about getting invaded, but Worst Turtle able to go on the offensive and set Julio up for success.
And it's just a Julio comfort matchup. It feels like any matchup where you're altering the playstyle of your opposing soul laner to go in your favor, because we don't see Vamanas go Mage's Blessing very often. Now, granted, we don't see Tears go Mage's Blessing very often either, but it's just Julio forcing Zero to play a different style than what he's probably used to, right? Like, normally you would either go Warrior's Blessing or rush the Gladiator Shield, depending on the matchup. But not this time for Zero. He's not going to have as much sustain. And if you ever get caught in the Fearless, because the way Vamana works is you're trying to umbrella rank from your melee minions. Well, if you're standing at your melees, you're going to get Fearless alongside your whole wave. So it's a lot of a scuff around, play around with a tier where you have to, like, Armored Umbrella from the side, group up the minions from the backhand side, and then that takes just like that extra 5 seconds to clear the wave that gives Julio the advantage instead.
Julio, no teleport in this match. Decided to go Blink at level 1, something that he's done before, if memory serves. What do you, if you're Zero, hold that thought, as Lawbringer committed, and that'll chase out that big baby form. Zero using it just to guarantee, but look at this. Lasbra rotating in, Blink in, Julio caught. That's the full combo, and one last auto attack will do it. No heal coming from that power cleave. Lasbra able to notch first blood for Insignum. Julio did everything right up until he walked into the tower.
A ranked play right there.
Yeah.
You got the lane advantage, and all of a sudden you're trying to tower dive without your ultimate. You just got to wait it out. You have Blink anyway. Like, there's no reason for you to be under the tier 1 tower. You could have used that Blink defensively, and if you have to worry about these ganks from Lasbra, well, guess what? You got to hug the opposite side of the wall. Make sure your vision is towards the jungler. That Serket is able to punish you.
I felt like he wasn't trying to dive as much as he was trying to proxy that next wave, but
possibly
blue buff was coming up, and you know that after getting it invaded for you last time around, Lasbra is going to be there to defend it. I mean, I think that thinking ahead in terms of where the enemy jungler is going to be is one of the most important things a laner can do. If you're able to just think about where you would be as a jungler, if you're experienced enough, or where you think the jungler should be, then it does give you that sixth sense almost, where you don't need wards as much to get ganked. And there, I think that Julio's Spidey senses should have been tingling that was probably coming. Despite
it being called a solo lane, it's a team effort for every decision you have to make. And if you're not communicating or asking your teammates where their Circuit is, and even if they say, I don't know where Circuit is, assume she is on your side of the map and respect the possibility of her to defend it. And just Julio has no respect for that.
Lasbra has last breath yet again, but Draco locked himself into the jungle. Zero's rotation proves fruitful. 2 kills already for Insignum, both via the hand of Lasbra.
Really good play from the Circuit early on, and we were talking about what would happen at level 5, and Lasbra has been able to make a little bit of a bigger impact. Zero going to get the double slow and a couple of basic attacks going. And that Armored Umbrella Ring just doing so much work.
One auto would do it for Zero, but he can't quite get it. Warchi now joining in. Good jukes by Zero, but it may have sealed his fate. Warchi able to rotate over and get a kill for the Poppies, putting them on the board.
Good global pressure.
Whoa!
The blink into the counter blink. Lasbra without last breath can't find the Cobra's Kiss. Good awareness from Julio. He definitely saw that coming a mile away.
Lasbra definitely didn't check his corners there. Walks right in, and Julio able to notch what might be the easiest kill of his career.
Oh yeah, absolutely. Circuit going for blink at level 1 means Lasbra is one dead Circuit. That fearless combination at level 8 is basically 75% of Lasbra's health, and a couple of extra basics from Warchi that initially helped the kill onto Zero, even assisting further onto the junglers. Really shutting down Insignum's early momentum start, giving now a little bit of an upswing for Poppies.
Lasbra able to pay back what he gave to Julio over on that right-hand side, where, again, the Spidey senses for Lasbra should be tingling in that spot.
Oh, yeah.
Of course they're coming to blue buff. They're both healthy enough, and my blink is down, so why wouldn't they come and invade there? That's it. The game sense that Lasbra usually has, I think, let him down there.
I think he got thrown off by the counter blink from Julio. He's like, wait a second, you can do that?
That was a good play. That was a good play by Julio, without a doubt about it, and that earns him this tier 1 tower on the right-hand side. He might not win this trade super heavily here, Tolly. I mean, Zero does have that ultimate, and yeah, actually, Julio has to Lawbringer away.
Good accuracy. Without that Armored Umbrella Ring, then you're not going to be able to really do much in this matchup, which is why sometimes Vamanas have to be very overzealous by dashing to confirm that third ability slow.
Well, just like that.
Ouch.
Zero falls, and it looks like Julio just walked up to him. He didn't have blink.
No blink, no ultimate.
Yeah. Like, I think he just walked up slowly and down smashed him. That's pretty much what it looked like to me.
Ouch. Not the play that you want to see out of your soul lane Vamana.
Gladiator shield done now for Zero, whereas Julio is going for the old school, the Breastplate of Valor rush. Tyr doesn't really make use of any of the shields particularly well, as Chekio has to use the beads a little bit late to avoid that knock-up, and the dots from Genetics will get the job done. Boosh beads alert.
Oh yeah, but Joshi also hitting those 3 basic attacks was crucial to that. I'm surprised that Chekio tried to use the beads instead of just using Desert Fury the whole time, because it's such a long duration too, or at least it feels that way.
Blink forward, Cobra's Kiss, looking at Warchi. There's Last Breath as well. Straight into the bomb stuns from Death Panther, and Insignum right the ship. Zero here, even to help keep this going. Needs to hit the slow over the wall, just misses that Umbrella Rang and Draco's walls, this time detrimental to Insignum instead of himself.
This is spicy.
I don't know about this, Tolly. Julio's here, and he's big.
Ulti, blink available for Julio, but great zoning from Death Panther, keeping Julio in check. The knockup prevents Worst Turtle from getting in. Insignum get the Gold Fury and find the kill.
Desert's Fury not there for Chekio either. Zero gets down Worst Turtle, and that is near worst case scenario for the Poppies. You called it. Death Panther does a great job zoning away Julio. Worst Turtle gets in there. Another late purification beads from a member of the Poppies. He's glowing gold in midair. as that means Insignum's able to easily secure the Gold Fury and then guarantee the kill because Worst Turtle committed Water Illusion.
Not really too much vision on the side of there, but Julio is going to commit under the tower. Can't bring her away. Draco Marino is going to have to fall for his transgressions as well.
That was a beautiful play by Death Panther to stun out Julio at the perfect time as airstrike used by Joshi had to go up and over that pillar. Good acceleration to get high enough because imagine if you could just like smack right dab into the pillar.
Oh, that would be hilarious. Have you ever seen a Habwa crushing wave into a pillar?
I watched Transonics do that to someone before. It might have been Paul because Paul was the big Hebo player back then. Maybe it
might have been there.
Delta
I
Marine.
remember casting a game where it happened. And
Transonics was always going for plays like that.
I lost my mind.
Yeah, that's always doing anything to stop the to stop a big movement ability like that feels really good. Stopping Mercury ults.
Oh, speaking of which, I was going to mention how I was in a ranked game against Gars maybe like a year and a half ago, and he was playing Mercury. I heard him channel it. I'm like, all right, 1 Mississippi, boom. I dropped the shifts, and then he was like, caught. He's like, just staring at me. He's like, all right, you got me.
That's the good stuff. Worst Turtle might be in some trouble here. He's in plenty of it. Stun lands from Death Panther. Zero stumps down the Kwong. That'll be kill number 8 for Insignum. Draco Marino, poison ticking, gets the job done. Lazra able to find his second. Insignum now more than doubling the poppies in the kill department. And now Group is 5, ready to get some objectives as well.
It's just genetics starting things off with Lazra. Julio over the top, catches out Joshi, beats, still available. Look at the side though, the Desert Fury! Chekio takes out one, goes for a second one!
Great kill there by Chekio, but Tier 1 tower did fall for the poppies. Zero just short on the damage. Lazra will make up for it with the Blink Deathbane. It seems like that Circuit may be out of danger as well. Don't know if I can say the same for Genetics here, but great little juke on the Impale won't end up mattering. In fact, all it does is get Worst Turtle and execute stack.
That's perfect there. I thought for sure we were going to see an unofficial triple kill out of Chekio, but more important, to give that stack onto the Ao Kuang, giving him 15 magical power, a little bit of lifesteal to follow suit, and getting him more to this late game hyper carry status.
Insignum had the right idea, but Julio's disruption, I think, was really critical in that team fight to swing it back in the Poppy's favor, and Chekio's accuracy through the wall.
So great. Julio was the distraction. He was like the little flashbang, little sound bug that you throw in there while the raid occurs, and that's exactly what Chekio was. He was the Stormtroopers just coming on in. That Desert Fury was insane, and then being able to also clip out Death Panther, find those shots, the basic attacks afterwards. Not sure if Death Panther had the beads or not. Maybe he thought he would survive, but either way, great double kill.
Insignum now up a little under 2K. Experience looks to be fairly even, if not in Insignum's favor, just slightly. So the Poppy's holding strong the first 13 minutes, but Insignum do seem to be setting the pace in these fights. The Poppies need to find a way to be the initiators at some point, or maybe catch Insignum on a bad initiation. But I think you're totally right. Genetics has been the key member thus far. And look at that pull onto Warchi. Lazra has that last breath. I don't know that that'll kill Warchi, but I do know the Worst Turtle needs to be careful.
We'll see you soon, Warchi landing right back down to the ground. Pyromancer gets started out. Julio able to dash away, but he gets rooted in place.
Insignum get the Pyromancer Worst Turtle too late.
The pull!
On the blink. Julio still getting juggled by Insignum. Lazra should be able to get this finishing blow. No blink for Julio, no life for Julio. Lazra with his 5th, as now Insignum up by a considerable margin in the kill department. And that XP lead is only getting bigger.
Man, Genetics' pull, I thought for sure Julio was out of the action there. And we were talking about Poppies needing to do something here, and that's what they're going to do. Death Panther is going to fall to the Dragon. Second stack for Worst Turtle.
Fire Giant's getting low. Zero's trying to zone, but Worst Turtle knows this Fire Giant's going on. Insignum able to get the Fire Giant and Worst Turtle. Zero cleans up Draco underneath that Tier 1 on the right. All the meanwhile, Chekio has been PvEing down this left-hand side, but Insignum just forcing fights. That Fire Giant, man, that is a risky call.
Oh, absolutely, especially after the death earlier. Chekio gets a Tier 2 tower, but can he get away from this action? In the backside, it's Warchi assisting on the matter. Joshi bit off more than he can chew and loses his Fire Giant buff.
Genetics won't be able to finish off either of these hunters, and that's a big loss to take, to lose your hunter when you just got fire, especially when it's not like a late game fire giant where you've got a big lead already. I mean, Insignum was kind of relying on this fire giant to crack the game wide.
Oh, absolutely. Trying to get some towers, especially considering there are 4 remaining, totaling about 5,000 gold for Insignum to secure. And without your hunter to receive that fire giant buff, you're not dealing that 20% extra structure damage to get a little bit quicker. And I love the play from every member out of Poppies there. Finding the kill was Worst Turtle under the tier 1 tower, recognizing Death Panner beads were down, and it was a guaranteed execute after the fact. Level 14 Ao Kuang, Bancrofts, Demonic Grip does so much damage, and then Chekio not rotating was very important because you can't really predict what's about to happen on the right side of the map, but you can predict that you're going to get that tier 2 tower.
Keeps the Poppies within striking distance, but now that Joshi has respawned, could be a Gold Fury pull. The Poppies do have Oracle Vision, but Draco's all the way on the right-hand side. Lasbra there to join him. Chekio, the only one local. Looks like the Poppies are willing to give this one up. Maybe let Chekio try and throw a Desert's Fury out there to get it going. Chekio staring down the barrel of the gun. Desert Fury comes out, and Signum still manages to get it. No fear whatsoever in that moment. Warchi has to take up into that Living Nightmare. Lasbra right there. That should do just fine. Last breath. Oh, we'll get the job done. And Warchi.
The shell! Okay. Warchi survives for the moment, but look at Joshi on the left-hand side. Gets slowed out. Lasbra with the last hit.
Knock up good onto Worst Turtle. Those dots pull there as well. Worst Turtle falls to Genetics. Julio now on the run. Last one out, and Lasbra trying to put him back in the grave, but it looks like the Poppies escape with just losing 2. I was like, is Warchi inting right here? Is he just trying to spread the poison to his team? He actually gets double shelled, which does not work, by the way. They only got the effect of 1 shell, but 1 shell got the job done, though I wonder if Julio or Draco could have used a 2nd shell at that point.
I don't think that was the downside. I think the positioning, let alone, spelled the demise for Warchi. That's, you know, trying to just get himself relevant into this game. Sitting at level 14, working on the chin size. Julio trying to defend his tier 2 tower, going to get stunned on out. A lot of damage being dealt onto him. No Lawbringer quite yet.
Quite yet, but it is coming up soon. Warchi there to help zone away with the crystallized curses. Gets his solo laner out of danger. No one can do the same for the tier 2 on the right. As Zero going 1v1 up against Worst Turtle. Zero was in execute range, and that's why you see him use that Colossal Fury just as an insurance policy to make sure that he stays safe. Not a lot of magical defense for Zero. He got chunked pretty heavily there by Worst Turtle. He's working on and should have something now, but the Mystical Mail pickup on the
Interesting. Very interesting. I don't mind it, considering when you're against double blinks from Poppies, you get in the thick of things, you get those dots rolling. Also keep in mind,
oh no,
Worst Turtle, in that case, if he walked by Zero, that Mystical Mail tick would reveal him.
They heard him. They just heard Worst Turtle. Worst Turtle does have Blink, uses it, and right into the waiting clutches, out of the frying pan. And how does it go, Tully?
From the oven straight to the frying pan, or vice versa?
All right.
I don't know.
You've got a different version, and I would like to default to you. Well, you know what they say. Out of the frying pan and into the fire. That's what I was. That was my version.
I was like, not another F dot reference.
Who?
Exactly.
Cool. Fire Giant due to spawn in 40 seconds. But Insignum getting some objectives on this left side. Zero here to provide protection for Lasbra. Or excuse me, for Joshi on this left-hand side. Lasbra's on the right, pushing that wave in. Only 2 tier 2 towers left on the map now for the Poppies. This gold lead has been a steady climb so far for Insignum.
Insignum just have not been able to be stopped, honestly. And a lot of it has to go off of the back of what Lasbra is bringing to the table. Going for a little bit of a hybrid build now as he just completes Brawler's Beatstick. Masamune, Mad Guy's Cloak, not very popular selections for Circuits. Mad Guy's Cloak a little bit to prevent yourself from getting disrupted, but Masamune is not your typical go-to item. Trying to get some more defenses when you're around several targets. It's not that much to write home about.
I really like it, though. I mean, you are, in these later games, great pillar there from Chekio, actually. Lasbra face plants into it. Still got the beads. Checky with the pre-beads in that spot to make sure he doesn't get Cobra's kissed. In the late game, Cirquet's biggest issue is that you can't even last breath anybody because in the moment that you're latched on, you get killed. Masamune can remedy that at least a little bit. Plus it's 50 power. Not mad about that. Insignum thought about Fire Giant, but instead decided to set the trap. Lasbra able to sneak through those walls from Draco Marino. Ultimates all still available for Insignum. Same can be said for the Poppies. Lasbra the only one without a relic on Insignum. Checky with his beads down. Zero finds 2 with some big damage. There's the last breath onto Checkio. Remember, no beads for him. Shell is good to make sure that he doesn't fall from the damage alone, but Julio's got to get out of there right into the waiting clutches of Zero. Knock up. Knock doesn't quite reach. Zero lets him go.
I think he canceled it, actually. I'm
I
pretty
think so
sure
too.
the Vamana dash goes way further than that one. He anticipated the hit to cancel the knock-up and then find the basic attack afterwards. Not going to find it, but Zero's still doing a good job zoning Worst Turtle and Draco Marino. Finds a kill in a 1v2 while the rest of his team gets the Fire Giant.
Zero, I mean, has the one brain fart where he gets soloed, but since then has been dominant in this match. Look at the player damage. I mean, he is more than double the next highest member.
That's wild, honestly. It's could be credited to the Mage's Blessing, could be credited to the mystical mail ticks that are constantly ticking at whoever he goes on. And once he goes into that Colossal Fury, those backline carries, Warchi, Checkio, gotta hightail it out of there.
Building into a Spectral Armor now in anticipation of Checky's crit that it looks like he's going for. 2-man stun. Julio there, only finds 1 with that Fearless. Lasbra coming around the back looking for Checkio, and there he goes. Zero is unstoppable. 7 in a row for the baby out of the solo lane. Right side Phoenix falls for the Poppies.
Good. Siege and Signum are just yet again going down the little check marks. Zero's back gets canceled out. Oh, no. Not like this. He might actually get Worst Turtle, though.
Worst Turtle's getting a lot of damage thrown his way. This Colossal Fury is going to last Zero a long time, but not long enough. That's a bad way to lose your unstoppable streak with the lazy back right in front of Warchi.
Yeah, just a little bit. Very unfortunate stuff, but that's not going to hurt too much considering Fire Giant still around the waist out of Insignia for another 2.5 minutes. And at the end of the day, Poppy's just going to need to hold on for dear life. They're down 10,000 gold now after this gold here.
I love what Checkio did here. He had the Shuriken 1, sees Zero build Spectral Armor, and sells it and goes for Chin Size.
He's like, nah,
yeah,
JK.
I don't need that. And look at this. Zero now sells his Spectral Armor for Hide of the Nemean Lion. Both items very good against physical damage dealers, but Spectral is the anti-crit defense item. Nemean does do anti-crit very well, but a little bit more generalized into anti-auto attack.
It's just a safer item to go than for the anti-crit option because, like you just mentioned, you can definitely bait the Spectral Armor quite heavily, and sometimes you can even bait Thorns by going into crit as well, where Checkio can make an even harder switch if you wanted to go for, like, let's say an Aussie or a Blood Forge, go for like double lifesteal, ignoring crit entirely. And surprisingly enough, even seeing the Berserker shield onto Checkio, trying to go for more attack speed, a little bit more sustain on his front.
If you're Zero here, are you building Hasten Katana last item? Are you that far ahead right now?
Honestly, nah. He needs like a Spirit's Robe or Mantle of Discord, honestly.
I agree. I think he's a little bit too light on the magical defense up against an Alquang who's only getting stronger. But it's always fun whenever you get to pick that up. Maybe a Frostbound Hammer at least gives him help.
So get the Spirit's Robe, Mantle of Discord for Mage's Blessing, but then sell the Gladiator Shield for the Hasten Katana.
Maybe I think I like Frostbound a little bit more. Same general effect, but gives you health instead. And also
more power.
Also slows the attack speed of the 2 hunters on the other side.
Yeah, more power as well to be able to make your basic attacks hit a little bit harder. But less attack speed than your Hasten Katana.
Yeah, you don't get to zoom, baby. You slow the opposition to baby speed. Left side Phoenix the call for Insignum. Genetics first one in. Lasbra has Blink ultimate available, but all relics are up for the Poppies. 2-man bomb stun from Death Panther. Follow-up bomb doesn't hit home. 25 seconds left on this Fire Giant, and Insignum decide that's not quite long enough to find this siege. Tier 2 tower and mid, certainly on the table for them here, but they leave the Phoenix out.
They had the timing there. There was a Fire Minion wave flooding down the right side. A second one to follow suit. It was Worst Turtle that made the rotation to defend it. I think if Insignum were like slightly more patient, they had the opportunity to siege down the left side Phoenix, but playing it safe instead of sorry. Insignum still have to, secure their top 2 spot. It's not guaranteed quite yet, but if they find this victory, they should be in it.
Fire Giant now off of Insignum. as you mentioned, they are all but guaranteed to finish in the top 2. If you aren't familiar with the minor league setup, it's 6 weeks of best of ones, just 1-game sets. But if you finish in the top half of the league, that's top 3, you then enter into a round-robin best of 3 to determine who the best team in your region is, and then that team will come to North America to play in the HRX placement stages. So top 2, definitely where you would like to be, but all you really need is that 3rd spot, and I'm pretty sure it's
I think I was just thinking too much of the SPL.
Yeah.
I was like top 2 to be able to auto-qualify into the HRX, but yes, top 3 specifically. And with this victory, if Insignum get it, should be locked in for that top 3 spot. Only Optimus Gang above them. Pretty much impossible to catch up to them. But like you mentioned, the seeding doesn't matter because of that round robin. Every team plays each other once.
And the story really isn't who's, where Insignum's placing or where Optimus Gang's placing anymore. It's all about who's going to be that 3rd team. And we've been saying all along, I mean, it was literally 4 teams within a half a game of each other.
Oh, yes.
Coming into today for that top 3. So it's really just a matter of if you can steal a win against Insignum or Optimus Gang, you put yourself way ahead of schedule. But time's running out. I mean, this is the last game today. That means there's 1 more week of play before that's decided. So this is critical for the Poppies if they can try and make a comeback, but their backs against the wall. Right side Phoenix respawned. Left wave is very, very far pushed onto Insignum's side of the map, so it won't be easy to transition to all 3 Phoenixes without a full team wipe.
But the mid lane is a lot closer, and that's what Lasbra is counting on with Death Panther on the side, looking for the bomb stuns, not going to find him. On the right side of the map, there's a whole bunch of madness onto Zero.
Zero falling very low already. Thorns uses a deterrent, and he will make it out of there. Genetics brought back in. 2-man Wrath of Terra, not good enough. Warchi brings him down with the Chernobog mid. And that might be enough to send Insignum packing.
Lasbra and Death Panther too preoccupied in the mid lane trying to set up a highlight play reel instead of getting the easier guaranteed play on the right side when it's a weakened Phoenix state.
I don't know about this one, Tolly. The chase in outside the Phoenixes. Chekio is dead. Doesn't get a relic off. Joshi comes from the flank. It's a double kill for Joshi. Lasbra manages to find Worst Turtle. And just when you thought the Poppies were ready to bring it back,
nope.
They throw it away.
They are not done, and Insignum are going to continue the pressure.
That's probably just game.
Getting the middle Phoenix, but they're playing it safe, aggro. They want to go for the right side weakened Phoenix instead.
They've got 30-plus seconds, totally. I mean, maybe they can go in with this next minion wave coming from mid with 2 Phoenixes down. It makes the Titan a little bit squishier, and it looks like that might be the game plan. They're lurking and trying to see if they can catch Julio or Warchi.
Oh, Joshi's actually going to agility his way on in. Warchi dashes away, but he can't get the second dash. Death Panther are going to get juggled by Julio, but this Titan is falling.
Insignum continue to be a top card in the European Minor League, and the Poppies continue to look up. It's still a traffic jam for that 3rd place spot, and that means it's going to go down to the final week to determine who's going to join Insignum and Optimus Gang in that top 3 round robin.
This is wild, honestly. I can't even predict who's going to be in that 3rd spot because Optimus Gang and Insignum, they're clearly your number 1 and 2. Johnny, Johnny, doesn't matter because for them, they're able to make the plays. For Insignum, they're able to set up the highlight reel. Lasbra on the Circuit was just all over the place. Had a little bit of a rough start, I would say, when he kind of fell in his own blue buff, but after that point, he cleaned it up.
How about Zero on this Vamana? I mean, had a rough moment or two, but if you're looking at MVP votes, which you should be, I don't know how you vote anyone but Zero after that performance.
That damage as well, being able to... He was almost triple, I believe, whoever was right under him in that game, and a lot of it came down to the fact that he was trying to match Julio's style of the Mage's Blessing, and he strictly stuck to physical defense, knowing it would be a lot of a boxing exchange between Julio, trying to get Mystical Mail to tick also onto the Ao Kuang and just prevent those blinks from occurring.
And don't forget, Vamana, that all that physical protection he's building is converted into power.
That's
so
true.
You can make it work a little bit in that regard. And Insignum able to find the victory over the Poppies. Let's throw it over the desk to recap not just this game, but all day here at the Minor League.
And I'd be happy to, Ryan, walk you back through the SML broadcast that we had today. Thank you, you and Tolan. I'm Finch, and I got Taco here with me as well on the desk. A day full of action. Some of it went, I would say, the way we expected to. Some of it not so much. That 3rd set kind of comes to mind with Poppies and Sacred Speed Buff. But, I mean, it's getting real tight here in the Minor League.
The game results are around what we were expecting, but what took place, all the action that occurred to find those results is what really caught me off guard. I think there were some very interesting turnarounds, especially in that first couple of sets of the day. I believe Optimus Gang nearly ended up taking a spill there. That would have been very unfortunate for them.
It was very close. I agree with you in that set with Milky Way, perhaps closer than they expected. Optimus Gang did have a bit of a different look there. But let's go back and talk about this last set, the Insignum one versus Poppies. We'll kind of work our way back up throughout the day. A very impressive performance from Insignum, really all around, I would say. I thought Lasbra looked great on that Circuit. He kind of just is better than you all the time, it feels like. But the one selected as the MVP, at least by you all out there in Mixer chat, was Zero for his performance on the Vamana, taking the world by storm with the big baby.
It was a close call between those two for sure. Both of them did an excellent job, not only peeling for their team, but also just working together to find the picks necessary to really prevent this AO from ever having an opportunity to really get online. Worst Turtle just kept getting met with roadblock after roadblock each time he would look to initiate, whether it be onto Zero or any other member of Insignum. It was just immediately collapsed upon, and that to me speaks wonders about the team fighting prowess here from Insignum.
Yeah, they absolutely could not do enough damage to this Vamana to try and bring him down. Zero entirely too tanky at this point. And Insignum having a good day, I'd feel like all around. Maybe a bit of a scare towards the... Or not really a scare, actually. Their set with Exordium was very strong in their favor, but a strong day from them all around. This is a big win, especially with the Optimus Gang having a bit of a shaky start here. They can definitely feel good about this, moving them towards the last week, week 6, which is going to be coming a little bit later on. But that was Insignum up against the Poppies. The Poppies had a bit of a double header here when they went up against Sacred Speed Buff for that third set right before.
A little bit heartbreaking as well, I think, for Milky Way, because...
Or Milky Way, rather, yeah.
Yeah, Milky Way ended up dropping their match against Optimus Gang, which I think probably should have ended up in their favor. They just kind of lost sight of things about midway through, and also for the Poppies, they found their victory initially in the third set, I believe, but couldn't bring it home against Insignum, and I do feel like that's definitely going to end up having a pretty severe impact in terms of the third place standing. I think it's a rat race now between Sacred Speed Buff and Poppies, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah, that one did end up hurting him. Yeah, it was Poppies who were up against Sacred Speed Buff, though, for the third set of the day, which does end up going the way of the Poppies. But again, that one was not very easy either, was it? It was a difficult time for them to try and close that one out. It was Julio, though, who ended up getting selected as the MVP, I believe I recall correctly off the back of some pretty good Hercules play that was managing to get it done for them over in the solo lane, and absolutely, that's what it was.
Hard to forget about that Hercules play from Julio, especially since we had the pleasure of casting that set. Yeah. Also, and Julio, the driving strikes, he might not have been able to find the Earthbreaker driving strike combination he was looking for throughout the laning phase, but as soon as those team fights broke out, he was all over the place with the control, and between Julio and Deco Marino, it was just too difficult for Sacred Speed Buff to find their opening to react.
And this one was frustrating from Sacred Speed Buff because they really did win those two side lanes. The Bellona into the Hercules matchup favored them. They had the Apollo into the Morrigan, where Streak Up you thought was going to have the stronger matchup there. But they didn't capitalize on it. They got very little, I would say, out of that early start to try and get that game going. And the slower it went, the more it got to the mid game, the more it got to the late game, the more the Poppies just started to walk right over them.
They just had so much pressure at the start, and they kind of just let it waver for free.
I agree.
And the Poppies didn't really have to do anything to counteract that. All they really did was commit to farming.
Yeah.
That was it. It wasn't like they were winning an absurd amount of team fights early on or suddenly taking the Gold Fury by surprise. It really just came at the cost of Sacred Speed Buff not utilizing their lead early enough to strong-arm the Poppies away from the jungle.
That ends up meaning that the Poppies are the one that comes out looking stronger. And it's important for them to be able to grab that lead, right? A lot of people were playing up against Optimus Gang and Insignum today. All the 3 sets that were on broadcast, aside from that one, involved them in some way. So kind of expect them to win those games. But the one between these two, like down at the bottom, those 4 teams at the bottom, this one between Poppies and Sacred Speed Buff, Poppies grab it. An important win to try and separate themselves from those other teams.
And now it's going to be a close call as well for the Poppies because, like I mentioned, Sacred Speed Buff definitely down but not out just yet, I would assume. There's still one more week to go, so there is still some potential for a turnaround case here. But that second matchup as well was a rather interesting one between Insignum and Sacred Speed Buff, I believe.
Insignum and Exordium for that
Exordium,
one.
that's who it was.
Yeah.
Apologies, Exordium. But
no, well, I mean, Exordium might want to try and forget that one, if I'm being honest. Maybe they're right there with you in the same boat as Insignum. Looked very, very strong in that game, and much as we saw what happened that last one where they went up against the Poppies, Lasbra had a very strong game here in Game 2 as well. He was selected as your MVP for that Game 2 performance, this time, though, on the Naja. And Insignum, I think they very nearly blanked him in this game. They were just in control the entire time.
I just remembered about Alka and every single little bit of that Bakasura struggle.
No boots.
Lasper, though, great job on the Najat, kind of showing off a little bit there towards the end, but I definitely think that this win was probably going to happen indefinitely for Insignum. It's just the fact that they were able to go about it in such a clean fashion, further boosting, I think, the team's morale overall and kind of just displaying to the rest of the EU SML, hey, we're still considered top dogs for a reason.
Absolutely. I mean, I kept saying it, even though Insignum are second right now, their history is anything but that. So you have to give them full credit for it. They put that on display today. But for what it's worth, I think Exordium might have made their job a little bit easier with their draft. There was not very much control in it. It was very much single target. Yes, it would be high DPS, but it wasn't AoE. They couldn't quite keep up with the draft that Insignum had. And we've already talked about Alka and the Bakasura and the blade tree or whatever build it was. The golden blade into the hasted katana, boots one, stone cutting. It didn't work.
It came up short.
Yeah,
we'll leave it at that. I don't want to roast Alka too hard about that one because he suffered enough throughout that match, Finch.
That's a fair point. That was not an easy game for him. But Optimus Gang versus Milky Way, that was your game number one, the opener here, and one that at home you probably would have said would have go pretty easily in the favor of Optimus Gang, but not in this one. I believe they're playing with Original in that jungle role instead of having Johnny in there, and they had a little bit of struggles. He struggled a bit early on the Circuit. It took him a while to finally get control of that game back.
Early on, Milky Way were doing a great job at picking off Original, and I think the entire game plan from them at the start was just to focus the jungler because they knew he was the odd man out for this team. He was new to the roster, not exactly used to their standard team environment, and probably the most punishable person to look for. And, well, they did make it happen for at least 15-20 minutes or so, up until a couple of turnaround engagements just going south. I think that in the end, Milky Way kind of just lost sight. They put a little bit too much emphasis into trying to target out Original, and that usually led to the Circuit eventually having enough mobility and itemization to survive those initial aggressions, and then it was an immediate turnaround from Optimus Gang.
Well, it was Caspanify in the end who ended up giving them a little bit too much trouble, selected as the MVP one more time by Mixer Chat out there. I think y'all did, for the most part, a pretty good job here today. Impressed, I would say, by the Chernobog play that we saw come out from the young lad. Able to find first blood, it would look like here on this one as well. But yeah, I mean, for Optimus Gang, it is a bit concerning. We talked about this a little bit, right? It is tough when you lose someone as strong as Johnny, I think. And from all intents and purposes, I think it just performed today without him. I doubt this is permanent going forward, but it definitely hurts to not have him. But did you expect it to hurt this much to the point where Milky Way could take them right up to the brink, if not cross all the way over?
I didn't think that it would impact them this severely, but I guess that's kind of just what happens when they're so used to Johnny's playstyle. And a lot of times teams, when they get to that level of comfort with each other, it becomes a standard even for the teams to just let the jungler do their own thing. You don't need to use comms as heavily as you might with a new incoming member, and that was kind of the case here for Original. Their comms are probably a little bit more cluttered than what they wanted them to be because they're trying to call out everything that they normally wouldn't even have to worry about had Johnny been there. So it just adds in a lot of confusion, I think, that they kind of struggle at the start. But once they found their rhythm, they managed to bring it back under tow.
And that's the point, right, is that you never know what small sort of intangibles are what you can lose. You don't have Johnny there, on top of losing a star player like him. So good for Optimus Gang to be able to recover from that. Let's go ahead and take a look back, though, at the schedule of all of those matches that we watched throughout the day, because I believe we had a bit of an upset that did happen off broadcast here. Optimus Gang dropping to Sacred Speed Buff in that offline matchup. All the other ones of the day you would probably say went the way you expected, but that one could be a bit tough. Now, it is the top three going to that round robin, not going to hurt them too bad, but it just goes to show how much losing out on your jungler might hurt.
It also goes to show how important those third and fourth sets were for Europe SML today, because Poppies, even though Sacred Speed Buff managed to get the win from Optimus Gang, they weren't able to repeat it and close out the day cleanly. Poppies did manage to take a return match off of Sacred Speed Buff, even though they lost to Insignum. That doesn't really factor in as heavily because they got the win against Sacred Speed Buff to prevent them from getting the outright one-up. That's
a good point. That is actually excellent that you mentioned that. Let's take a look at the standings, because Sacred Speed Buff getting that win up against Optimus Gang should be huge for them, but because they couldn't finish their business a little bit later on in the day, now they're still right there stacked with the Poppies and Sacred Speed Buff in that 3 and 5 position, putting them a little bit ahead of Exordium and Milky Way, both of whom had some struggles. So we'll see if Poppies and Sacred Speed Buff can keep that up and control their spots. Only about 2 more matches to be played apiece for those bottom 4 teams. Optimus Gang and Signum, I think, only have 1 more to go. So that means week 6 is going to be stacked. We're going to be tracking it throughout the day. Who is the one line lined up, who's in the best position to try and make that round robin, trying to make those placement stages to make their way towards HRX. But again, there's no big math involved. There's no standings or changing dynamics for you all at home. You just had to go to highresexpo.com, pick up those tickets November 16th through the 18th.
And keep in mind, it's not just going to be SMITE or Paladins that you're going to have to watch at DreamHack. There's also going to be a wide assortment of other games there that you can check out with friends and family alike, and also get a chance to meet some of the other players, even if you've ever wanted to have a chance to say hey to everybody.
That's right. Yeah, you come in for the high action esports, bring some of your friends in who are big cosplay fans. There's a cosplay contest happening there as well. They can win some money too if they're up to snuff to compete with some of that competition. There's a lot to enjoy here at DreamHack aside from just the event itself. But I think that, Taco, you might be particularly excited for the after party. That's what's going to be going on the 18th at Main Event, hrxafterparty.eventbrite.com.
Yeah, I'm a bit of a party animal myself, Finch, in case you couldn't already tell.
Yeah, notoriously goes out. Taco, everyone knows that, right?
Yeah, it's so difficult to keep me locked up at home, man. I got to be out there into the action. I want to make sure that I'm out there at the action with the rest of you guys back at home. And so don't be at home, be at the after party, because that's where I'll be, and Finch too.
Absolutely, I will be there. Crisp handshakes all around. Taco, the notorious party animal. Sorry, I can barely say it with a straight face.
See, the thing is, you guys know how much of a hermit I am,
right,
which is what makes this bit so great.
Yes.
But everybody back at home might think I'm being serious.
That's right. They just think that Taco goes out all the time. She absolutely does not. She streams gyms and works here. That's Taco's life. And she's happy with it, so I'm happy with it too. Glad to have you here, Taco. As always, that's going to do it for the minor league today. SPL starting up 3 p.m. Eastern. Make sure you are right back for that. That's going to be about an hour and 10 minutes if you live in some other time zone. So get right back here for the SPL. And as always, thanks for watching.